Yeah, bye.
No.
I don't know.
Like, what'd you do?
I moved it to you instead of me.
That's cold.
Yeah,
It
now I
was
can-
warm before.
Oh. I didn't put plastic stuff away.
He's not gonna be here tonight.
So, I'm tired.
Thank you, Marlene.
Wait till June. Oh, I'm out of here. You get your name plate and print. Like, I'm gonna put it above the door.
And then two.
$5. Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm gonna have a party. We're waiting.
yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Sorry, I was just organizing my life. I will go ahead and call this meeting.
Oh, hold on. I'm on.
I'll call this meeting to order at 6:01. With flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have a large agenda this evening.
Yeah, that's
Um, sorry.
So let's just get right here.
So does anybody have any addendums to the agenda they'd like to make this evening?
No, ma'am.
All right, hearing none, we'll approve the agenda and move right into consent agenda items. Is there a motion to consider for the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the LC school board meeting minutes from 11/12.
The
Or do you
consent
want to do the
agenda?
whole consent
we
agenda?
just do the whole
Okay,
thing,
the
unless
whole
there's-
consent agenda.
Okay, so do have motions to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jamie seconds, any discussion? All right, Laura, could you take a vote, please?
Yes.
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 All right, motion carries. I see we have some, I can't see all the way to who's online, but I know we have some, I thought we had some patron comments this evening. Are they online?
One is online, just right there is online.
Okay. Ooh, can we go ahead and take the online patron comment, or am I mistaken in that, Laura, that they? Who is unmuted right now?
Mr. Harris.
Oh,
Mr. Harris, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, could you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't mean for that to happen.
Okay.
I'm so
There we
sorry.
go. There you go.
Were you all trying to have me unmute?
Yeah, we were.
I just pulled up to the building, so I'm sorry, I
Oh.
was still driving. But would you like me to speak online?
Oh, don't have her.
Will you come in and join us?
It's warm.
Okay.
Well-
It's at the district office, correct?
It's in the library, so just walk straight.
Go get her.
Laura's gonna come get you.
Okay, yeah, I could talk online, but if you needed me to, but I just pulled up. All right,
All right,
thank you.
go ahead
All right.
and do this hold for just 1 second while that happens. If that's okay. So I guess we can recess for a second, actually. All that.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll go ahead and come out of recess, and I'll have you come up to the table. Yeah,
We
All right.
press and hold. the
so
button.
we'll come back into the public session at 6:08. And then if you'll just.
Dawn's an expert at microphone.
Press and hold.
I'll hold it. There we go.
There we go.
It's always tricky.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. I'm gonna let you go ahead and go. We have about
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay.
We'll have you, tell us a little bit about your
Yeah.
candidacy.
well, good evening, members of the board. Thank you for having me here and, sorry, I'm a little winded. I probably ran in here, but, I wanted to come, chat in person. I know I've sent you all some emails and I just kind of wanted to follow up as an in-person introduction to myself. As you know, I'm from rural coastal as well, so that's near and dear to my heart. The issues that are faced in districts like your own, coming from one myself over in Lincoln City. And one of the reasons why I put my name in for running for the position is because I really want to work with boards to kind of bring us together, not kind of, I want to bring us together from our region to help express the unique needs that we have. One of the ideas I had was kind of based on OSBA's board cafe, and that would be to ask the board leadership, the chairs and vice chairs, if they'd like to meet once a quarter to kind of see what's going on in the region. I didn't want to wait like all the way months later into serving to do that. I would rather get started on that right away. And I know I have not been reached out to in the past as board chair in this region to ask what the needs are from Corvallis, and I don't want that to happen to other boards as well. And so one of the things that I'm really passionate about is serving the public and being involved with education. I work in higher ed, but K-12 is also one of my passion areas. When I was diagnosed with cancer a couple years ago, I had to let it go a lot of my public service that I was doing. And the one thing I knew I wanted to keep for sure was serving public education. And so I made a commitment to myself and to the community in Corvallis to keep serving in that capacity, and just wanted to keep building my skill set up so I can serve a region like ours instead of just serving just the caucus. And I don't say just the caucus because they do a lot of good work too in that capacity, but I can't connect to our region in the same way as I would be able to with a position like this. And so as a product from our region, my kids were born here. My kids go to school here. My nieces and nephews do over in Lincoln County. And I stay really connected to the area, and I'm really proud to be from this part of Oregon. And just wanted to share a little bit. I know am I out of time? I'm
Keep going.
keep it okay. And so I just, like I said, I wanted you all to like see me, meet me, put a face to the name and to the words, and know that they're not just words. I reached out early because I believe in getting to know people. And so if I was selected and able to serve you, I would want to keep those conversations going and it not just drop off. And it's not just about an election, it's about being in community across boards. And so that's where what I kind of wanted to bring this evening to you all, and thinking about your decision that you have this evening. I know that our colleague is here too, who is currently serving. And so and I just wanted to, again, come express myself this evening. And sorry, I'm so flustered. Usually I'm like, I had it timed just right where I could make my kids dinner and get here. And then I was like, not the traffic. So,
You did very well.
but thank you again for your time this evening. And
Thank
I'm gonna have to step out for a little bit, but I want to come stay in the rest of your meeting as well to hear what you have going on in general. So thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, any other patron comments? All right. Well, let's jump straight into our superintendent report and K-12 principal report, Ms. Nira.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the super piece first. I want to put some numbers in front of you, especially as we're hearing about it with the legislative coming up. So first off, when we talk about weights for special education students, we get 11% of our total is towards our ADM, of our ADMR is what we get for a weight for our special education students. So this year, and Dawn, please tell me if I'm saying it wrong, but I think I got it. When we talk about an extra weight for special education students, it's an extra 1.0. So right now, last spring, our ADMR was estimated to be 295 students. Our IEP number was 42. So right now our ADMR is 235. We have a total number of active IEPs at 43. So our IEP percentage is actually 18%. So we are actually only getting double weight out of for that, we're only getting extra weight for approximately 26 of our 43 students on IEPs. So one of the major pieces that, and we get no weight for the other set. There's a little bit of weight, but I can't really explain it. It's like an extra 2. But ultimately, we just get that 11% and that's capped. And how the state got that percentage was they set it in the 90s at some point. And that 11% cap has actually not ever moved since then. So one of the things that COSA is proposing for the legislature and the state school funding formula is to move up from 11% to 15%. So for us, if we were to be funded at 15%, we would actually get our extra weight for the IEPs would go from 26 IEPs to 35. So that's actually almost $90,000 extra we get. So that's something that COSA has been working for and is a priority for COSA. When you look at the state for the budget the governor actually released, there's nothing about increasing that percentage. But I know that we've been hearing a lot about this 11%. I wanted to put that in perspective for you all. Dawn and I have been working with OD. I know you heard a lot about this prior to my coming about maintenance of effort for special education. And so Dawn and I have actually been having lots of conversations. He puts his eyebrow up because it's been lots of conversations with ODE about how we can make our MOE actually maintain or maintainable for us. We think we actually have it figured out. In January, we are going to actually bring you guys a presentation of what the MOE is and what things that we've done. I think in the conversations that the district had prior, there was some different, I think there was some miscommunication of how MOE is. I know that prior to us coming, our MOE was around 1.2 million. And I know that the board was told that it's over how much you spend in your percentage of general budget. There's actually 2 ways, and I put this in my report. There's 2 ways you can meet MOE. It's overall spending or spending per IEP. And so Dawn and I are working on it. We think we have a number. We've sent it off to ODE to see if they will approve it. And then we are going to do a presentation about MOE in January. So you guys have a little bit more understanding and then know where we're at. We were able to, with the cut of our ADMW and the decrease of our IEPs, we were actually able to lower our MOE to around 600,000. And that's still, yeah, it's still not where we need to be, but I think we have a plan and we can pretty much get to where we need to be. So we want to give that presentation, but I'm just kind of setting the stage with that. The report cards were released. I'm very happy to report that we are above average in the regular attenders. The year prior to last year, we were at 51%. Last year, we were at 68%. State average was 66. I'm going to give kudos. I'm going to be honest with you. Our 9th grade on track percentage. If you look at our state report card, it says it's above 95%. It was 100% of our freshmen last year were considered on track. I'm going to give kudos to Kayla Wilson and to the staff at the high school. We used our SIA money to create an academic advisor position, and that position is to ensure that students in grades 7 through 12 are on track, doing well in classes, pulling in and giving support where needed. And she worked her tail off last spring to make sure those kids were getting their stuff done, and she was hounding them. So kudos to her on making sure. I think the 9th grade on track the year before was like 40%. And last year it was 100%. So they did well.
Sorry, I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
interrupt really quick, ask a question.
Okay.
What's the state average on 9th grade on track? Do you know offhand? It's okay if you don't.
It's
It's
on-
not that big of a, I'm just curious when we look at like,
It's in the state report card.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to say it's like
Got it.
80%. And
I know we're a smaller school, but it is kind of nice to see like
Yeah.
overall where we're falling in line with the state.
yeah, on the state, on track to graduate is 85%, and we were at 100. One of the things that we're still working on is the on-time graduation. We knew that we were probably going to have one more year of the learn at home students. We think this is the year that they will drop off. We're at a 40% for 4-year graduation. But I will tell you, in looking at the names, I have no idea who half of them are. So I'm assuming they're learn at home. So Laura's gonna dig with ODE. We think this will be our first cohort where we don't have to learn out. We think. And we still need to work on our grade 3 and grade 8 mathematics and ELA. One of the things that I think will really help is as we move through the strategic plan, that priority of the board and where we expect things to be. But overall, I think we're seeing some great movement in some pieces. Christine and I met with Senator Anderson, kind of gave him some ideas about the state school fund. In my board pack or my presentation to you all, I actually gave you all the 53-page document of accountability and assessment calendar that every district in the state of Oregon is required to do. I also handed that to Senator Anderson so he could see, the legislation wants transparency. Well, I'd like them to see what exactly that means and what burdens sometimes it puts on school districts. And I know Soren handed it to Representative Gomber.
I tried.
Oh, he didn't take it?
He wouldn't take it. He glanced at it.
Oh, well, next time I find him, I'll give
I
it.
even told him he didn't need to read it. Just take it.
Yes.
He's like, pushed it back.
So I think it's really important when we talk about, because one of the things that Senator Anderson talked to both Christine and I about was transparency and accountability, which I don't disagree with. But I also think sometimes the legislature needs to really understand when you talk about transparency and accountability, sometimes when that gets implemented, that means lots and lots of paperwork. And so we have to find a way to really have that, but streamline it in a way that's not a burden, especially for small districts. And then today, the accountability framework that ODE released in response to legislative, I don't want to say command, but I can't think of a word right now for it. They did it, and in that accountability framework, it talks about ways that we can streamline our grants and different things like that to make reporting, yes, holding districts accountable, yes, transparent, but not as cumbersome. And then for facilities and transportations, Mr. Albers has been working with local community members in Benton County Road Department for road conditions. We also are continuing to look for a bus mechanic. And then we're still working on getting our HVAC up and running in some spots, identifying those pieces. We're looking at quotes from local contractors about fixing the field so we can turn them into our insurance company. Marlene, can't think of her last name right now. Actually just saw her, she came in, what we're gonna do is she just actually gave us a big poster of the kitchen concept so we can put it out in our foyer. And then if we go and talk to community, we can start showing them ideas. But they had contacted me 3 days after we had the issue on the field, and Soderstrom, we received a $2,000 donation check for Soderstrom to help with our field.
Oh, wow.
So we just got that check today. And so we're very thankful with our relationship with Soderstrom. They've done us really well and they're really invested in our community. So. Questions?
Can I ask a question about the learn at home students?
Yes.
So were those like 9th grade students that were back when we had all the grades at learn at home? And they're still counted until they graduate from somewhere?
Oh, yes. And so what happened when you look at how that works, and when I looked at that data with Laura, if they have not transferred to another school or we can't track them, they're considered dropouts from us. And so a lot of those kids just dropped out.
That's
Based
I'm
on what
actually
we looked at, yep.
concerned about.
And
They're
one of
not.
the things that Laura is really working on now is she's actually going through all the old files and going through the ODE system. And if we can find those kids, she calls the school and says, I still have their CUME file. Please send me a records request. And then we can get them out of our system.
Cool, Laura.
Get it,
Well,
Laura.
for me, it's less about getting them out of our system, but
Making sure they're
doing something.
Yeah,
'Cause that's what
served.
really worried me when we had to get rid of some of the learn at home classes. I'm like, what are these kids gonna
Yeah,
do?
there's a lot of, if you look at that data, there's a lot of dropout. Yeah,
Any other questions?
that's a good question. Thank you for asking.
All right, principal report.
I just have our students of the month for October. I've listed them there. I'm very proud of them all. For the month of November, our theme is leadership, and we're going to announce those next week for K through 12. our football league. We had a great football season. A lot of people actually didn't think we'd make it as far as we made it. So I was very proud of the boys. When Senator Anderson came to visit, he actually also wanted to take a tour of the school. So we got to go into the CTE building and I was very proud of our kids. They were very articulate with what they were doing. They showed him around, they talked about their projects, and then he actually went into the fifth and sixth grade classrooms and talked to them about projects. And then they were like, one of them said, I've never met a real senator before. Can you take a picture? So he got a kick out of that. Our fifth and sixth graders actually went to Clemens Park and did the Salmon Watch program. They didn't realize how rainy it would be that day, so they came back a little early. They were fine. And then one of the major pieces that we at the high school that we're really pushing this year is getting the kids out at the secondary level. And so the first college trip we did this year, I took the seniors to LBCC Roadrunner experience. I want them to get out into colleges, and I don't even care if it's a 4-year college. I want them to get off our campus and see the post-secondary opportunities. And so our next trip, we're taking sophomores and juniors to I think we're going to Chemeketa and Western. And these are not going to be like, who wants to go? It's going to be like, you are going to turn in your permission slip, or we're going to call parents and get them to sign it anyways. And then we're planning on taking the 7th and 8th graders to LBC, Lynn Benton Community College, just to get them off. And then the 9th grade, who is all boys and a girl, have all said to Miss Kayla that they really want to either do welding or construction management or forestry, which OSU actually has a very good construction management and renewable resources. And so we are actually trying, we're going to set up a thing in March for them to go and actually visit. So our goal in our secondary school is to get the kids out so they can see what they have to offer. And so we did that. That was our first run, and we're just going to keep pushing it. So
Boys basketball goes to UCC
Oh, yeah.
Friday.
the boys basketball team is going to visit Umpqua Community College on Friday on between their games. And so the new expectation is if we're taking kids a distance and there's a college nearby, they're going to stop and look at it. Cool. That we have money in our SIA for that. So, and then I just have things, I put the district and school report cards up for you guys to have. I put the Alsea Valley Voice, the most recent article in there because I wanted you all to see that we actually did talk about the strategic planning process, as well as we talked about school board meetings, what day of the month it is. We talked about the 2 vacancies this spring, so we have that out there. And then encouraging anybody to come if they're interested in applying to be on the board for, the election, that they should come and attend monthly board meetings to kind of see what the role of the board is. So I just wanted you guys to see that was out there.
Thank you for doing that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Including board members.
I think that's really important because the role of the board is really misinformed out in the public.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's a really good idea.
I also think it's been a little bit secretive, but like when you can submit and things like that.
Mhm.
So love people getting out there and doing that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, because we definitely need to encourage somebody because I'm not re-upping my time. So
Yeah.
I need to encourage
You
somebody.
sure we
Yeah,
can't
I've
talk you
talked-
back into that?
Nope.
I've
I'm
talked to a
so
few
done.
people just like planting the seed and I
9
get there
years
saying,
is
you
enough.
know, you could do this.
Mhm.
Would have
Yeah.
thought.
But I thought, I wanted you guys to see that it is in the Alsea Valley Voice, that I put it out there, and we'll put it out there again when we do our next one. So,
Accountability and assessment checklist is next.
yeah, I just wanted you guys to have it. So you can share it with everybody, you know what it is. I mean, if you keep going, literally, that's something like between Laura, Roxy, Heather, and myself, and Roxy Smallwood, that's how we take care of all that. That's 5 of us to do all of
Thank
that.
you. All right, regular attenders.
It went down. November was like sickness of the year month.
Oh, yeah.
It was
pretty
bad. So we're working on it. One of the things that I'm starting to put in front of my staff now that we're getting Synergy up and running is we're talking about attendance. We're talking about engagement in the classroom. We're talking about if we want kids in the classroom, the expectation has to be they need to come to school. And so really reaching out to staff, saying you need to reach out to parents, talk about the importance. If kids are not doing well, you need to reach out to parents and talk about that. It shouldn't be the first time a parent sees an F on a report card, should not be when they get the report card. We need to have that level of communication. One of the things that they are talking about, and I think as we talk about attendance, yes, when you're sick, you should stay home, but when you're sick because you just have a sniffle, you need to come to school. So we need to work on is when you're sick to stay home, and when you're sick, you like, what's those symptoms to stay home and when you can be at school. But again, attendance is really our number one piece. But November, they were pretty sick. I mean, no, sound gross, but we had one kid who just like, they were running down the hallway trying to throw him at his parents at the other day because he's just puking down the hallway. And we had a couple kids that way. So hopefully we get back in January, we'll be better.
All right. That was regular attenders. All right, Learn at Home. Miss Shunk, are you online this evening?
Yep, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I don't know if it's possible for me to share. No, I can't. I hope everyone saw the pictures and the report that I included. This has been a great month, or November into December has been really a great month for learning, and it's really exciting because we are starting our Genius Hour passion project presentations. And so because this became part of our culture last year, this year everybody is super excited to get that going, and was chomping at the bits to begin. And that's both parents and students. So I included some pictures down below that you can see. And without even asking, I had students in chat saying like, I love this. I love that we can express ourselves with Genius Hour. So I'm really proud of our school bringing this in, and the teachers for supporting it, and the parents for supporting it, because as you can see with our one little kiddo, I put his picture in there. He created an entire model of Greenland. He wanted to learn all about Greenland. And so that was his thing, and it just his smile. And it's really incredible what these kiddos can do and bring to the table. And I attended 3 today, and it was really exciting. So if anybody ever wants to attend, I can share with you the dates when they will be presenting. So we are taking our learning into into the break time, and encouraging all of the students to participate in a kindness campaign. We've sent out a calendar of different things that you can do, and then encouraging students to do that, as well as reading challenge during the break, and making sure that everybody is not just dropping off and playing in the snow, but also, different ways to be reading and reading with family, and doing that during the break. One of the big goals for next year is for all across the board, all of the students K through 5 to begin creating comprehensive portfolios that they're going to be using during our student-led conferences in the springtime. And so it's kind of it's a new thing for our teachers to be doing that, and to making sure that they're collecting, a wide array of artifacts. But we're going to be working on that, and I think that's going to be a big deal for all of our students, and doing a student-led. But it starts in January in terms of planning that and getting everybody geared up. We saw a little bit of a drop off in our iReady, but I think it's this time of the year. So January, we're going to gear up and make sure that we're right on top of that again. And that's about it.
Any questions?
I do. I have a question about the iReady data. I know when assessments are done, we get previous data to compare the current data to. And with the learning module data, is there any utility to having a comparison from where you mentioned that it dropped down a little bit, and I don't see how to compare that to previous ones.
Well, okay. So I guess what I meant was drop down. We're typically, I don't know if you can see that report. We're typically more in the green in terms of time on task with iReady. So we shifted a little bit into the blue, which means that students are in the system, in that platform, just a little bit less than we typically do. So just making sure to encourage everybody to get to green is kind of our motto. Get to green and be utilizing the platform in both reading and in math. I don't know if
We're
that
talking
answered
about
that.
like where we can find more of that data. So that's just
Yeah,
last month. So
You
you can
just don't
compare
see
it to
her
month.
comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to compare it so I can see.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no,
Because when we get assessments,
Mhm.
we do get the old data to compare the new data to.
yeah.
But with the learning module, time on task, like,
Mhm.
I just see the current data.
Yeah,
That-
and they do. I can run a report that shows, what it looked like last month versus this month, or the beginning of the year versus middle of the year. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, it would be
Okay.
nice to have that in the report, like maybe last month compared to
Okay.
this month, but if you're on top of it, I mean, that's what's important.
Yeah, no, and I will absolutely include that for next month so that you can see what that looks like.
And one of the things I think is important to note, and learn at home kids and brick and mortar kids, is that parents can actually access iReady at home too. So if kids are sick, they can do iReady at home. It's not just something they can do at school. So they can get their minutes for the learning.
We've done that all.
Yep. So that's something I can we'll throw out to the universe so people can hear that.
And iReady is so fantastic. Like, for example, I just sent an email to a brand new student that we have, their parents, and iReady provides all of the information to share with parents on how they can support them at learning at home. So they've shifted into a wide array of supportive documents. And I was able to send that while I was waiting to speak to all of you to encourage their child to finish the diagnostic. So.
Other questions? Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Shunk.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Harris, you are up with athletics today.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's going on with my camera, so like y'all know what I look like, I guess. So that's fine. So my summary basically for ALSI project will start on December 12th. So ALSI project is our endeavor that we're going to start working on for next year to get some positive behavior intervention supports into the school, working with classroom teachers, and then obviously positive behavior is something that we want to start really enforcing with our students. I received 11 individuals showing interest to be on the committee, which is really exciting because even at a school with 150 faculty members in years past, 10 or 12 was a good number. So this is exciting. And this year is just going to be a planning process. We just want to make sure that next year when we hit the ground, we can hit it running. And so this will just be putting it together. And I'm excited about it because I've talked to some of the teachers and the folks that are interested in working on it. And so sounds like they've all had some history with the positive behavior intervention support systems. And so I'm looking forward to our first meeting on December 12th. One thing I do want to throw out there is that if there's any community interest, members that are interested in being on that committee, please reach out. I mean, this is sort of an all stakeholder type of endeavor. It's not just one or two people that, need to do this. We would like to have parent involvement, board involvement, anybody that's, interested in just sort of developing this program at our school. We are more than welcome, or you're more than welcome. So just reach out to me by email. And the great thing is that we have Mr. Summers, Mark Summers, who's in our school a couple times a week for behavior supports, as well as Alex Nalivaco from the EES working with us as well. So the first meeting will just be kind of just introducing and just kind of, sharing and what this is all about. And then from there, we'll kind of set our agendas for the next meetings and start moving forward through the second semester.
Mr. Harris, before you move on from that one,
Yeah.
outside of this meeting, how will the community or parents or, obviously board members should have heard that just now, but how will they know to get in contact? Do you know if there's gonna be something on the website? Or will we send a remind out? And
That is
a
up to
way?
Mr. Harris. if he
Okay,
wants to do
okay.
that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
Well, so I love that the option to have parents and community involved in that is great. Is there a way to get communication outside of this meeting? I just don't know
Oh,
how many people will watch the recording. And so
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah.
if it's like a reminder, an email distribution, putting something online on the website, what your thought was
Yeah,
in that space.
yeah. I can send some emails out. I think we have like a parent email list that I can reach out to. So I can do that for sure. Yeah. So absolutely. But if you know anybody that's just like, hey, you want to do that, like, let me know and we can get you in that too.
Okay. Jamie?
What time is that meeting on the 12th?
That meeting is going to be just right after school at 3:30 to 4:15 because again, it's just faculty members. But at this meeting, then we'll sort of what I'd like to do is make it to where maybe we can make it available for parents that might work or maybe days that that we can all get together on. So that would be a consensus with that group of people at that time. But I'm sure we can work something out. Maybe a Zoom link or something like that as well that parents or individuals that are interested could join us as well. So yeah.
Is there a Zoom link for that meeting at 3:30 on the 12th?
Well, no, but I can make one for you. I'd be
I would
happy to do
appreciate
that.
that.
Okay.
think
All
that-
right. You got it.
I think it can be recorded too, can't it? I mean, it can be recorded and watched for people's reference. I don't know. If that's your wheelhouse, I shouldn't
Yeah.
get into it. I appreciate the notification and thank you for letting us ask those questions.
Yeah, no, and like I said, this one's just the first meeting, just kind of get things going and planning for it. So I can bring that up with them and then I can report back and I can definitely get that information out in the next week or two before Christmas. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry I interrupted your report. Keep going. My apologies.
You're fine. Yeah, no, anytime. Basketball, full swing now. We're moving ahead. Middle school boys and girls have had some success. I would probably argue that we're one of the largest, if not the largest, group of middle school kids walking into a school for an away game. So there's over 30 students right now that are involved in our middle school basketball program, which is really exciting. We are probably this week we're going to meet and try and come up with some PYAC or that Philomath Youth Activity group to see if we can get some of our fifth graders involved with that because we have so many students and with some of our schools in the league not having as many students, it's going to kind of it's not going to allow as many students from LC to play. And so we want to get them a lot of playing time and develop their skills. So this week, we're going to meet to just see if we can come up with a plan to make sure that those kids that may not be able to travel because of not having a B girls team or a B boys team or no girls team and just boys team, that we can still get those kids into a program that helps develop them. That we're really sort of pushing to build this basketball program here at LC. High school, again, underway. Some of you know our boys basketball team and has been successful so far this year. They played a JV 2 team from Philomath and beat them by a point, and played Waldport, which was exciting, and beat them by a couple points. And so, and then last night had pretty good size win over Fall City. So if you get a chance, come out, check them out. They're playing some really good basketball. And thank you to everybody, those of you on the board that are helping with scorekeeping, Miss Olson and Miss Follett for your help with the shot clock. I know anybody that's got adult ADD, that is a wonderful tool to keep you engaged throughout the whole basketball game. So thank you.
I haven't gotten yelled at by the refs yet.
So I appreciate it. Everybody, Miss Hart helping with just doing a fantastic job with concessions and all that. So and all the, parent volunteers and everything so far. So also, our varsity boys will be traveling. We talked about that just a little bit ago. They will be leaving Thursday to head down to play Gold Beach at Myrtle Point, and then they have that college visit, and then they'll be playing Glendale. So we're excited. They've got a JV and a varsity this year. They look pretty good, so we're really excited about this year. I am anyway. So, but I've also been reaching out. And some of you, I know I've gotten some questions about start times and things. But what we've been trying to do, since we're only playing boys games with these schools, is trying to move up some start times, just, so if we have to travel 2-3 hours, that we can all get home, a little earlier, whatnot. And everybody has seemed to be open to that. So if anybody has any questions about the start times or whatever, let me know. But that's just kind of been the idea behind that. Winter sports pictures. We were going to do those on December 19th from 1:30 to 3. If you have not received any information, or if you know of anybody that hasn't received information, let us know. But we are planning to get the senior banners printed again for basketball. Those will hang in the gymnasium during the season. And then, of course, those during our winter sports awards, then the seniors will receive those as kind of a memento for, their time with us. And those banners aren't any cost to the student or the family or anything like that. High school and middle school basketball game dates and times, for the most part, on the events calendar on the ALC website are updated through Christmas right now and through the Clemens tournament. Again, it just took some time, and I apologize for some of the confusion with times and things like that. But some schools didn't know if they had boys teams, girls teams, if they were going to, this and that, whatever. So that really wasn't kind of finalized until probably the first of last week or middle of last week. So I've been trying to get all that updated. But if anybody does have questions, I've been trying to put as much information on the calendar for those particular events. And so if they click on the event, then they should be able to see start times and things like that. So, but I'm fine if somebody wants to call and whatever, and doesn't, I'd be happy to answer any questions or anything like that. So, but again, those times may change. They vary. Just for reference, I was talking to the Siletz AD this last week, and he has got 11 kids playing boys basketball, but then like 6 of them are on academic probation. So he didn't know, so like some of that stuff is just kind of a week to week thing. And I know it's frustrating for parents trying to make plans and things like that, but doing our best to get that out as quickly as possible. Also on here, I mentioned that I had reached out to the NFHS network. Didn't really have login information or anything like that, but was able to actually get that today. And so I've already added some events to the NFHS network. So if anybody has that subscription, then you should be able to go in and start searching for ALC events that are going to be current. Unfortunately, I think other than the Riddle game on the 20th, everything's away. But the Riddle game is on there. And then also I've posted the Clemens tournament, which we will have games on the 26th and 27th of December, 4 games each day. Those are already on the NFHS. They'll just be streaming for, I think I put them up for 8 hours. So there'll be plenty of time, but also the times and what, girls, boys, who's playing at those times are on the calendar as well. And those links will be on the calendar as well tomorrow. So all that stuff will be on our events calendar for everybody to access. But that's good news. And we checked the camera today, and so we're up and running. So that was some good news today. So speaking of the Clemens tournament, December 26th to the 28th, we will have 4 games on the 26th and 4 games on the 27th at ALC. And then Eddyville will be hosting the 3rd day, which will have all 8 games at that time. And I will get that information up, but Eddyville will be, kind of responsible for any NFHS streaming or anything like that at that time. But as soon as I know from their AD, then I will get that stuff posted on there as well. But if you're interested, we'll need help, concessions, the hospitality rooms, the clock. Well, I don't need a shot clock operator, but I do need, just any help if you're willing to come out, just give somebody a break or whatever, that'll be perfectly fine. But anyway, I think that's about it. I did email Monroe today just on a side note about possible baseball co-op. And so they're up for that. So we've already got a sign-up sheet in the high school office. I put that up today so that kids can start signing up for any interest that they might have for baseball, because it looks like maybe baseball will have to co-op again this year, but we want to definitely make that available for the kids that that are interested in that sport. So I think that's it. Any questions, please?
I don't have any questions, but a huge thank you out to Monroe also for being such great partners. They really, really take care of our kids and
100%, 100%.
appreciate them
Absolutely.
very much.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris.
You're welcome.
Financial report, Mr. Staley. Don't forget to turn your mic on,
I will. I'll hold it down.
or maybe it just needs new batteries.
Try again. I think it was muted.
Oh, okay.
You do that every time to me.
It was from patron comment.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, statements are in front of you, the same format. I tried to highlight the changes. There hasn't been much. I'm waiting for January to come when the state comes out with their new projections based on our ADMW, because we've got more money now and we'll get less, but I still think we'll get the same amount at the end. Earnings are still good. It's at 5% from the LGIP, and we have money there, and I'm keeping the bank at the lowest possible. Bren and I keep monitoring that daily, or Bren does, and tells me if I need to move some over. So we're trying to maximize interest. General fund expenditures, everything's encumbered. I even estimated our sub costs for the rest of the year based on history. So those are in, so I can roughly figure where we're going to be at the end of the year. I don't want anything to be a shock. However, I don't know about certain expenditures that come up for supplies and that, so things do change. There was a question last month on what is in the 2113. I don't know if everybody got the answer on that, but that's the social worker. That would be Sarah, because preschool pays us so much. And so I have to show the expenditures in the general fund rather than she's in the SIA grant, the other. I wanted to explain that. We also got the final billing or estimate from Len Benton, and it's around 63,000. It's a little lower than that. So we'll be paying for speech and the psych out of those dollars. The other expenses are, if you know how the ESD works, tier 1 and tier 2, we can go over that in the future, but I don't think anybody wants to. There's tier 1 and tier 2. And then when we go over that tier 2, we have to pay it out of our own pocket. So that's the amount there. Special revenue. Any questions on the general fund? Okay. As you noticed on the statements, there's still the money in there, the $700,000 that we put in for transfer, that the board can look at how they want to do that to the capital projects or to whatever. And if that is going to be done, it needs to be done before June 30th, so we can move the dollars over by resolution. Special revenue. The major thing there is high school success. They reallocated. There was a error in their calculation down there. Krista's laughing. And so we now have got additional, we're up to almost 100,000 on that. And I think Krista is submitting a new budget on that, or I don't know what the
I
process.
haven't heard yet, but I'm probably.
I know,
gonna
who
submit
knows?
A new budget, so.
I don't talk to them. The TAP grant, we're almost done with that, and we'll get the final report. We haven't received any of the money because we have to get the final report, submit it to the ODE with the invoices, and then they will approve it. So we're really fronting everything like usual. Other than that, there's no major changes in the grants. You'll see what balances are left in there, but we have budgets for each of those, and they're for specific costs. One thing in there, I pointed out to Krista, there is the one that was for the athletic. I think it was, I should know it by heart, it's been there for a couple years.
Oh, the donation one.
Yeah.
That's the baseball softball. donation.
Right, so those dollars have been sitting there, so as you think about how to use those dollars, Krista and Joe and the board, sooner or later, we need to do something with those dollars than just sitting there. Other than that, then going into, I always bring the food service. That's my common theme, bringing the food service. I won't go over it, but we're still going to be transferring around $63,000. And I've given you the financials and I've also given you the participation by month, so you can look at that in the average. It's costing about $1.81 per meal. So that's just life in a small district. It's numbers. Debt service or debt service is next. As you know, November's the big month to get property taxes in. 80% have been paid, but that's just not Alsea paying. The way the county works, the dollars go in, all of them, and then they're distributed on the percent of the levy. So it's county-wide, but we're at 80% of our levy on that, which is good. We still have the major two that comes up. People pay, I think it's March and June or May or whatever what it is.
February and May.
February and May. Yeah.
I
So,
paid all mine. thank
yeah,
you.
most people do, but I just want it out of my life.
Exactly,
Uh,
and a 2% discount.
Yes, yeah. Capital projects, again, there's dollars in there. It's earning interest, and that's for the replacement of the windows. And so there's still 273,000 in there. Okay. The bond, we're near the end, thank goodness on that. I have no idea how excited I am when we finally send in the final claim on the awesome, and Nancy's been working with CB. We're waiting for all the final on that. That's the HVAC. So we still have $7,100 left on that awesome grant, and Nancy's monitoring that. And so that is due by December 31st to the ODE. And then we're done with that, and you'll see her and Bren monitor that. So we should have around $60,000 left in the capital projects, or maybe a little more. Okay. Seismic, that's another one. That's a new grant, or a new grant that we've got. We've made, Bren's doing that. We've made the first and second claim. We should be getting the money soon. We can only claim it on a monthly basis and at the end of the month. So the first month was slow for them. They just sent out the check, and we submitted the second one already. So we're monitoring that. Unemployment. As you know, the law changed on that. And so we don't know where we're going to be at, but during the budget process, we put in that amount based on if people did that. It doesn't mean we're going to have to budget that much next year, because we'll have some history and we have a reserve and we'll base everything on that. But nobody knows really right now. And so we had a carryover from the previous year where we were billing, because we bill each staff the same amount, and it went into a liability. Well, I moved it into the reserve. I think I explained that last month. And that's one thing you might think about. I told Krista that I would like, besides MOE, we're going into budget. And I think one thing, part of budget is explaining, besides the budget, the various components like PERS, how it works, how MOE works. And I wanted to listen to the web today on site accounts. You've read about PERS in the paper. And so we're not one of those districts in the site account. I was a district that was in the site accounts at Canby, and it saved them a lot of money, but then things happened this year, and I'd like to explain how that maybe next, I'll talk to Krista next board meeting and just bring how it works. And so you have information on it, and if the district ever wanted to go out, at least they understand how it works. Another way you can keep PERS flat is set up a reserve, just like this. And I've told Krista that might be a possibility. You put money into a reserve, so when rates go up, you pay out of the employee salary, not their salary, the district, but you also pay out of the reserve to keep it flat. You've saved the money for that purpose. And so that's another option that the board and Krista can look at of how to flatten it. But just for your information, they were saying that PERS will not go down until in the 30s. So you're looking at another 5-6 years because of the interest rates. It's not making the earnings to follow, and the wages going up and various things. So anyway, any questions on the financial statements? Getting prepared for the budget?
Thank you for always explaining things so well.
Yes.
I'm not sure I do. I talk
I
a
know
lot.
that.
Well,
Well,
you
it makes
speak
sense.
Oh,
to
okay.
us. Yes, you
Oh.
speak to our understanding and I
would
appreciate
feel
that.
The lack of having questions means you're doing a pretty good job. I feel like I should be asking a bunch of questions, but I don't ever have to.
I don't mind questions, but I like it when you don't.
We're gonna keep you tonight for comedic relief though, so.
Yeah, no, I do like questions because you think you're just rambling and it gives you the opportunity to answer something. So
You do a good job.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll leave this on.
Mm,
Um,
He's gonna come back anyways.
I'm coming back anyway.
You can mute it.
construction bond report.
It was pretty quick and easy. Last week, Friday, we actually had a meeting with ZCS and Soderstrom. We have an idea of where we're doing the construction. I said in my superintendent update, it will actually extend out to some of the classrooms. And so one of the things that we're doing now with Chris, Keenan and I are walking around to talk about where do we have to take things out of. There will be some ability for the district to do some upgrading during this time. So one of the things we're talking about is replacing the floor of the stage. Because there will be some flooring replaced anyway, so it might as well, while we have the company here, we might as well just see if they'll add that piece to that rather than doing that. Painting, some upgrades for painting. They are gonna dig down in some areas down to 4 to 5 feet into the ground, so that might be time to redo some of the plumbing if we have. So we're gonna start walking around. I've done 2 seismics before and they're pretty intense. So one of the things that the staff is doing, so we're doing the gym, the administrative office and the supply room, and then the staff room. So one of the things that we're doing now is we're going through things, and if we don't need them, like stuff, we're gonna get rid of it. We don't need to keep it, because when we say like things have to go, like we literally will have to completely clear rooms. And so Laura and Nicole are coming in on Friday, and they're actually going through the closet in the administrative office, because that closet's going away. They're actually gonna make that one sheer wall. And so we're going through and starting to file and do those things. So we are still looking at budget, and we're making sure that what we have for budget will still fit in there. So things might change as we go, but yeah, it's in that very planning phase. Remember, we got Todd Construction. It sounds like they're gonna start in April.
Questions? All right, thank you for that. A student representative report.
Yes, so Paisley Jacobson wrote it. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here. They have a game tonight. So I'll leave that for you all to read. There were some questions about, the board asked them to write about their opinions about K through 12. I think Paisley answered it pretty well. You know, one of the hard things that we have with the student, representative is our students are busy doing stuff. And so, you know, as we go through, I think it's gonna maybe behoove the board to decide really how do we want it to look like? Do we want one? It might be easier to do one. I think that they've done great, but it is also some work now put on Laura and I to try to get it. So I think as we go through, the board needs to really decide what they want it to look like. And Paisley was very sad at the very end. She was very sad. She couldn't be here, but she's like, I got a game to sneer out. And so, I think she did really great. I appreciated that she put some time and effort into it.
How do you want the board, like, do you want the board to bring that back as a conversation on how we modify it? What are your thoughts on that space?
Well, I think the hard part is literally I just put out a thing and I was like, who's gonna write it this time? And then they have to, then, you know, one of them be like, well, I do. And I'm like, okay, well, write it, and then they'll come and ask Laura and I to read it. And I think it's easier if maybe you pick 1 or 2 kids and then they're able to write it versus having all of them. Because for me at this point, I send it out to all of them because that's what the board wanted, but then I don't really know who's gonna pick it up. Usually one of them will be like, would you like me to write it this time? And so I think, you know, if we want to pick a student representative, then pick a student representative. I think is kind of how it is. Or maybe pick 1 or 2 and they can work together. But at this point, I'm just throwing it out and seeing who could be there.
Well,
So,
my hope was that they would collaborate together. They all showed an interest. They all wanted to invest in that they could maybe
I don't dis-
collaborate.
I don't disagree with you, but you're not going to get all of them to do it. So
Yeah.
I just think maybe it would be better if you said we would like maybe these 3 people or, you know, and you know, the other piece is they play sports.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard. And, you know, we have one who wanted to do it, but she now has a job and she goes in so she won't actually even be able to come. So
Okay.
just to kind of think how to do it, because like I said, at this point, I just, you know, we all wanted to do, you know, we all want them the opportunity. So I'll just kind of throw it out there and then see who does it. So.
All right. Thank you for that. Enrollment in ADM history.
That's what it is.
Any questions? Scrolling through things too fast. Sorry, my fault, you guys.
Safety committee.
Thanks. Safety committee? Anything additional to the notes, Laura? All right, any questions on that? All right, well, are we good to jump into new business? Everybody good? An hour in, okay, let's jump into new business. So first up is our license administrative HR plan design, and Mr. Staley, would you yeah, can you help walk us through
Yeah.
some of this so we understand what we're voting on this evening?
Right, that seems to be my life. We have audits.
Hey,
You know, I've had the ODE how many times?
Oh.
Now 3, and now HRA VIBA audited us, and we met through Zoom. I did with the person, and they wanted to go through all our plans. Now, I learned something along the way. The HRA is broken into 4 groups, and they're all separate of each other. You have the licensed administrators, you have the licensed, declassified, and the supervisory. They're all separate, but the way things have worked, everybody in that group has to be treated the same. It's not like the whole, each has to be treated the same. And so when going through the plans, everybody we really follow the teachers, which is if you opt out, you can put 650 or 50% of the district contribution, and the rest goes into the pool for the license only. The classified, the same thing, the supervisory, the same thing. And the license administrators, well, the license administrators, Joe and Heather and Krista, but Krista has a contract with the district, and she cannot be treated any different than anybody else in that, or it's a violation of IRS. And so I have to give them what that is. Well, Krista's contract, unknowns to be, I didn't understand that. It says that she has so much put into the HRA. Well, that's not according to the group. So she is treated differently than the group. And also within her contract, it says any unused medical contribution, medical, dental, and vision goes to whatever her choice is. Well, I can't do it. Do you follow up? There's no way I can do it because I'm limited by what is available for Joe and Heather. So the only way to do it is by the language that I put there, is that they have 100% of their non-used contribution up to what the teacher's limit. So it's still limited to 650, but it's 100%. So Joe, Heather, and Krista are treated the same. Now, Heather opts out, right now, so she's at 650. So that language would allow her to go to 650. Krista has around $511. Well, I can't get there. Do you follow with the whole thing? So the only way I can do that is change the language to move it so she has 100% to honor her contract. And so that will put $511, which she has available per the agreement with you, the board. Right now, the contract says the 511 and the 425. Well, I can't do both. So because I have to deal with the medical, dental and that, you can't just contribute to an HRA. So that's why the two are connected. The 4225 will then go into a TSA, which she can do. Did I explain that correctly?
I've gone to talk through it a few times, so I would like, if there's questions, I think this. 'Cause
Yeah.
Right now, we're not discussing a contract. Right now, we're discussing.
But they're kind
Well,
of,
they're all connected, they're all
yeah.
connected, but
So-
are there any questions around the license administrators and that 100%?
yeah. And that's the reason.
Monthly benefit.
And that's
amount
the
and
reason
CBA.
for it, because Heather, Joe, and those are treated completely separate than anybody else. Completely separate.
This all makes sense to me so far.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, but
So
I'm digesting it.
I can, but I do, but the way that I would speak it goes directly into contract language. So I think that would be crossing a proverbial line right now.
Like contract
Well-
language, my contract language.
Well,
Yeah.
it makes sense reading your contract,
Mhm.
why it was moved from one to the other. So
Yeah, that's the only way I can do the one. I can't, they're separate. This honors VIBA because I have to send the resolution to them and then I have to give them the names of the people in each of the plans and who opts out and how much is going in there
Okay.
so they can, because they're doing an audit on it. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I was unaware at the time when we were doing it.
So I'm gonna restate this in my words, because the way I understand this is that 100% of the opt-out is that 650, because that's what's said in the CBA. So it holds everybody in this licensed administrators group to the same contribution, if they so desire. That's kind of the key. It's like, if they so desire to have this used that way, then they can have that available. to them.
It's. No.
No.
Forget the other groups. Just look at the three. They all have to be treated the same. So whatever they select in their medical, dental, and vision, their contribution is based on the CBA of the teachers. 1,300, whatever they use of that, 1,300. If they use more than that, they get nothing. If they use less of that, they get 100% of the difference up to 650.
Yep.
up to
Okay,
650.
that makes.
I was saying the same thing. We just did
Because,
different-
I got it.
yeah, but it's still limited by the amount of the CBA, both in contribution and in amount to HR. They're not getting any more benefit.
It's not
That
increasing
makes
the
way more
budget, it's not
sense.
increasing the budget or moving things around.
Now
It's-
I'm moving the pots around, so I'm okay with an IRS audit and HRA VIBA that I have to provide the information to.
Because if we don't do it the same, we actually could lose the program for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
and
don't wanna do that.
Krista is considered, because she's a superintendent, highly compensated. So she can't be treated any different than anybody
Yeah.
else in that group. And the minimum you can have in a group is 3.
So we're right at that
Yeah.
minimum.
So you can't, I said, well, can we just move Krista into a group? No, you have to have at least 3.
But
And-
it makes sense if you're getting her up to the 100% of the compensation,
Right,
instead of the numbers of dollars.
right.
it's the percent.
yeah,
which
but I have to
makes
treat
way
Heather
more
and
sense.
Joe the same.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
I'm sorry.
You're
No,
good.
This
If
is,
the dollar amount, I could not put that in my mind. It wouldn't go there.
But does it make more sense?
It
then?
does
Yeah.
when you go to the percent wise. So just get rid of the dollars, just do the.
Yeah, but I
percent.
still have to match the CBA both in contribution and the max to the
Yes,
HRA.
right. So that makes way more sense.
Okay, sorry.
don't be sorry. any other questions?
Our brains don't work quite like,
Well, mine doesn't work.
well, mine does neither half the time, so.
Okay,
Is there a motion to consider?
I make a motion to approve the proposed superintendent contract language for insurance and
No,
retirement.
No.
I'm on the wrong one.
Before.
Ah, this
I'm
one.
like,
You were so close.
So close. I make a motion to approve 100% of the excess monthly benefit amount for the licensed administrator group up to the limit as defined in the Alsea Education Association, CBA.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. We've had some discussion and questions. Last chance. All right, Laura, vote please. Lauren?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. Just, can you say just for one more?
No, I'm leaving.
What? All right, let's talk about the superintendent contract in this space now. And I think I can summarize a little bit of this, but I'm gonna look to you, Dawn, to help me. But we need to modify the contract to now match the previous item, essentially around the 100% contribution, and change the contract language so it stays legal. Is my very high level overview, and I'm gonna pass it to you for details, Mr. Stacy.
It's not a change in dollars whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
It's just putting them in different categories, so I'm in compliance with the IRS and then your agreement when the auditors come in. Because right now it says 425 goes to the HRA,
Mm-hmm.
which I can't do.
No.
And it says that the excess amount below the amount that is not used for the medical is at Krista's disposal. Well, I can't just she can't put it into an HRA. The only way she can put it is that money would be into a TSA. But so instead of saying that, to honor what you just approved, the unused amount will go into an HRA, and moving the 425 that she was originally putting into HRA would now go into a TSA. So I have them in the right pockets. Did I explain
Yes.
that?
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I promise I'm not asking for more money.
No, it's no more money. It's
Much easier now that.
Yeah.
Now that I've heard the first one. This makes-
So
Yeah.
then This is kind of into your contract.
So-
You're fine with this.
Yeah, so when we did, and I'm gonna tell you, it took me 2 weeks to like, what he just told you in 10 minutes,
You
I was
have-
like, why are you talking about that?
You should have heard her. I mean, I was through the door. Oh, I can't do that.
Krista,
Krista.
no.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like we said, so it would be, so we don't lose the HRA, but I was supposed to get this leftover anyways. But because of how the group works, the leftover has to go to the HRA and he can't do the 425. So we do the 425 in the
To
TSA. So it's the exact same amount. We're just trying to make sure we don't lose the HRA.
Yeah, and Krista
Yeah.
can't be treated any different
I
than
tried to say
anybody
I
else
could,
in
but
the
he said no.
HRA.
So as long as this is worked out, because it's your contract,
Yeah.
and as long as this is worked out with you, then.
And then we know going forward how to make the
No.
contract.
No change in dollars whatsoever, just a different category so I can have the year correct.
Right.
And the audit done.
And then I did just want to make one clarification that the motion that is requested here is a motioning to approve the MOA that is a separate link. So just in case.
Yeah.
Just so,
Yeah.
So we're doing.
this is a motion to consider,
The MOA.
the explanation that's been presented is is tied to the MOA that we would be voting on.
So the MOA just would say that the agreement would be in effect for the entire year. So we would go back and,
Not this.
no, that is it. There's an MOA on there.
Okay.
It's pretty much, and it would just say, we're changing the contract language to make
Mhm.
sure it fits. So it would say the insurance benefits,
Well, it's-
whatever's left over would go to district any left funds left over after district paid premiums occur will be allocated according to the licensed administrative HRA group plan, which you just voted on. And then the retirement benefit, so that would be the extra, and then the retirement benefits would go up to 925, because then you take the 425 that we were putting in the TSA and we would just move it to the HRA, and we would just move it into the TSA. So it'd go from
Mhm.
400 to 925. Does that make sense to
Yes.
everybody? So that's just what the MOA says, and then when July rolls around, we would negotiate to make sure that that contract language is an actual contract.
The language is correct in the contract.
Yes,
Mhm.
this is why we.
They always pull the superintendent's contract when they audit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to consider?
Should
I'll
I
make
read?
a- Oh,
Go
I'll
ahead.
make a motion to approve the proposed superintendent contract language for insurance and retirement benefit as outlined in the
Yeah, Miranda, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've had some discussion, final discussion. All right, Laura, vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you. All right, sole source,
That was it, yeah.
I think that was it, unless you want to say for the sole source, we might have a question.
Oh, then I'll come back for the 2-year.
Oh, yeah, he's got the 2 year.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you want to skip down there or you,
No, we could do it real quick.
the 2-year?
No, let's do
The
this
sole
one.
source,
Mhm.
okay, sole source determination. Yes, please.
Okay, so one of the things that we put out is as we are going through our building and looking at the construction, our fire alarm system needs to be updated. The fire alarm system that we have in the building is not able to actually connect to the CTE building because it's so old. And as we are doing fire drills, we're noticing that, like, for example, in the shop, the old shop, you can't hear the sound, but you can see the strobe. And it's getting to the point where if things break, it's so old, we actually are not able, like, we're having to go to eBay to try to find pieces. And so one of the things that I would like to bring to the board is that we did have a quote from Salem Fire Alarm, who we currently use to upgrade our fire system, our fire alarm system in this building while we're doing the seismic upgrade. It would be easier because things will actually be open, like parts of the ceiling will be open, parts of the wall will be open. But it's actually coming to a point where, like, it's like we can't even have it call out right now to the fire department because the system is just not even working. So if there is a fire in the CTE building, they will actually would have to call Nicole to be like, hey, can you pull the fire alarm in the main building? Or if there's a fire alarm in the main building, we would actually have to call out to the CTE building to be like, hey, can you guys leave because we have a fire? So it's getting to the point where I think we need to really upgrade our system to be safe. So what we're talking about is a sole source procurement determination. You'll need a resolution. What it is that we're talking about a sole source procurement in terms of we will not go out then for a bid, that we're saying that we wanted to use Salem Fire Alarm because they have been servicing our area or our building for over 16 years. They provide service for the current fire alarm system in other school buildings, and then they can make our systems all compatible. And they have an excellent service or price or excellent history of servicing the district at competitive pricing. So the board, if you guys decide to go this route to look at that, you would need to do this resolution for the sole source determination. It has actually been on our website. It's been on Facebook, and we put it in the Journal of
A Journal of Commerce.
Commerce. And so we've had it out there for over 10 days. So if anybody wanted to come, they could come and say, no, we want, any other company would want to. They had the opportunity to come tonight to do that, to protest that decision. So if the board would like to move forward with looking at that quote and getting it, we would need to do this. You guys would need to pass the sole source determination resolution.
So is there
So is there-
funding for this?
Yes, it would come out of the capital, the 400s, and we have currently we have $273,000 in there.
I thought there was something else that you were talking about funding that.
Well, you have I don't know how much is left in the bond either.
Like 6, yeah.
66. You have the different, and you also have the money in the general fund, the 700,000 that you approved during the budget process that you could transfer over to the capital projects.
But I thought we were saving that for next year when we have our shortfall. And the year after that, we have even more of a shortfall.
But
Well,
it's in cap-
we can discuss that when I do the 2-year budget, yeah.
But in order to even look at the quote,
Mhm.
for the sole source, sorry, for the fire alarm company, we need to pass this resolution first, which is how we can essentially discuss that quote and that funding around that quote.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Well, it does, except for, we are running into shortfalls, so then I realize that we need to move forward with this, but we are running into shortfalls, and so,
I would say the safety and security of our students comes before those shortfalls, and we would find money elsewhere to handle those situations. But first and foremost, the safety of our students is our concern.
So so I'm gonna ask, is there a motion to consider this resolution? Because this resolution is around the contracting side of, like, how do we pick the contracting side?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 25-04 for the sole source procurement determination for fire alarm design build services.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, so discussion. What I'm hearing is there's a lot of discussion around the funding, which I think is our next item, is the actual quote. Around how we determined who could give a quote, so that's this resolution. Any discussion on that or questions on that?
Yeah, I don't know enough about the industry to know if that quote would be, I mean, is it gonna be a reasonable quote? I mean.
Mhm. Like when we had them
someone has to
come,
Look at that.
we did, it is, when Chris brought Salem Fire out here, he handed it and he said, this is pretty reasonable because it's not like we're just like fixing here and there, it's completely redoing the entire system.
and
So-
including the new building.
It would actually tie into the new building. And we would actually be able, like, for example, Dawn and I sat out at the district office and we could hear it, but we couldn't see the strobe when we did a fire alarm. So we're getting to a point where there's some parts working halfway. We might even be out of somewhat compliance if we continue to allow it to go down.
Is there future projection to adding in this quote for services to?
Well, I'm gonna stop you there. 'Cause save that question. 'Cause
Mhm.
Let's look at the resolution. So
Mhm.
then we
And
can
then we
jump
talk
into
about
the
the
quote
quote.
and discuss the
Yep.
quote all in that same
Yep.
topic. I think I
Mhm.
think it's a good question though.
It is.
So any other questions on the resolution process for selecting the company?
No,
All right, so Laura, could you take a vote, please?
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. All right. Sole source quote. I think we've had some
Mhm.
discussion on this, but let's go ahead and consider a motion so we can jump into discussion on this.
Okay.
We do have to, before we discuss, we do have to motion. So is there a motion to consider?
Well, do we want me to give you a little bit of
Oh,
background?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so ultimately, like I said, it's outdated. We cannot add any more capacity to the main one. And really at this point, like I said, when we actually call and say, hey, that's broken, they have to try to either find it in their warehouse or eBay it. We're connected, we cannot connect the main system, the fire alarm system to the CT building because they don't connect. It's so old in the main building. We're having trouble connecting it to the phone system. Keenan has actually brought out both Pioneer and Salem Fire Alarm. And we actually have to upgrade it. We're using like a SIM card now. We've had to upgrade it. And so in talking with Chris and Nancy, we're gonna have walls open and ceilings open. This would be a great time to have to update the main system. We've used Salem Fire Alarm for at least 16 years. Bren can go back and look. It's 16 years and we think it's longer. This would allow, and they did our CTE building. So this would actually allow us to have one system that worked in tandem. The money for this project would come out of the 400s, the capital project, which currently has 273,000. So the
Okay.
idea then would be, it would actually do all of the buildings. So it would do the district office, it would do the shop, it would do the building next to the shop, it would do this main building. And so our hope would be we would just be able to take everything out and put in this new one. So when there was a fire in the CTE building, Mr. Stevens wouldn't have to have somebody run across the parking lot and knock on a window to be like, hey, like we would actually know, or vice versa, or things like that. So the quote would be 166,000. Or 166,240. This is the quote until January 1st, and then it goes up 5%. We do have the money in the 400s. This was something that we'd kind of talked about before. one of the things, Deb, to answer your question is, yes, we are gonna have shortfalls, but remember, in our savings account, we currently are estimating that we'll have about $6 million. In our final fund balance, correct, this year? So we do have the money for that. One of the things, and this is just
Okay.
me,
Bless you.
Hey, Heather, can you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was
Thank you.
muted.
It's okay.
Sorry.
this is me, one of the things that I think the board, as we move forward in planning, we could talk about it in the 2-year, is you're gonna have to decide how you want to spend that money. Is that money going to be spent with personnel? Because that will actually bring it down quicker. And after 5 to 6 years, you're not gonna have any money left. Or do you want to put some of that money to upgrading facilities? Because upgrading facilities at this point will either be used by some of whatever we can save, or it'll be by passing another bond. And that's probably not gonna happen for a while. And so this is something I think as you go forward, this is not a decision you have to make tonight. Dawn and I are gonna show you guys some projections. But this is something I think as we move forward as a board, you have to decide, how do you want to spend some of that extra money? I'm gonna propose that you keep $1 million always in your savings account, which leaves us about 5 million. If we spend it on people and not helping upgrade our facilities, in 5 years, you will have no money to spend. So for me, this is safety. This is something where if there were an issue to happen and we don't have our upgraded and we're not at, and a kid or a staff member is hurt or killed because we didn't have the or the right safety or upgrade, that is going to cost more than $166,240. And so that's kind of where it would be at. And I'm going to tell you right now, you do have the money for this. We have it in the 400s.
The system is modern enough that in the event that another structure were built, it would connect to that.
I hope so. I believe so.
I would
Yes.
really like to know for certain.
I
Yeah.
would tell you if what we were told is that this would fit into our CTE building, which means my guess would be honest, if we built another one, we would do Salem fire alarm and it would, yes, it would.
Which
I-
would make sense because it'd be all new
Yeah.
system.
So I want to make a motion, but
Thank
not
you.
necessarily as presented.
You can make a motion however you want to.
Okay.
This is just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's my suggestion.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the proposal by Salem Fire with the allowance of some questions.
So why don't you ask questions why don't we take your motion off the table and just ask your questions?
I thought we had to have a
We
motion. in
really
order
do
to
have to have
ask-
a motion to
Okay.
have the
That-
discussion. So you can
You can make a motion
make a
and
motion and you can retract your
Yeah,
motion.
you-
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the proposal by Salem Fire Alarm as presented.
okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Okay,
JP,
ask your
you're up
questions.
First.
Okay, so in this contract, I
Mhm.
see that there are exclusions.
Where you see that at? I know where you're at. I just have to find it.
I gotta find
It's
it
like the
again.
third
It's,
page,
uh-huh,
installation
yeah,
yeah.
proposal, right? Is
um,
that where you're at, Jimmy?
it says page 4 of 5 on my document
Oh,
installation
yeah,
proposal.
okay.
Do we know a cost for those exclusion items that's going to be put on the districts above and beyond the
Chris-
proposal?
Chris has said to estimate between 20 to 25,000. But a lot of this Keenan can do based
Okay.
on his contractor's license. So the painting, patching, replacement of drywall and ceiling tile.
Okay.
That's something that Keenan can do. So really, it's not labor. It would mostly be material.
So I'm hearing you say that, Giggies are stating we should have a contingency of 20 to 25,000 just
Which we-
plan for that above
Which-
and
yeah,
beyond.
He
Okay,
said he would estimate 20 to 25. I mean, I'm just saying it could, we already have the phone lines required for monitoring. The 120 VAC wiring, we would have to bring in an electrician. Underground conduit, core drilling and pathing, we more than likely Keenan could do that. And the conduit raceway, some of those things we could actually do, but Chris
and
said,
there,
yeah, Chris said there should be it's between, I'm gonna say between 20 and 25. It could go up
Mhm.
depending on that, but yes, there is that contingency. I
Okay.
would say it would not be all together. It would not be any more than 200,000.
Okay.
Which would be about 34,000 more than we got.
Okay,
But remember, if we don't get this contract signed and done before July 1st, that number, that 166, will go up 5%. So we're gonna have to add another 8,000 to it.
well, and as far as scheduling, my understanding is that, say electricians are booking quite a few months
Yeah, so
out. So
we
would
want-
this lock that in?
Yes, and well, we would work on that with them to do it. What he said, so we talked to Brian 3 weeks ago, this project would take 6 to 8 weeks. So we literally would have to have the kids out of school. They would start in June and they would be done by the time school went in. So like, this is why we need to get it done so we can get on their schedule.
But the
And-
contract does say right there that they're not liable for delays in the project if they don't get their stuff. in time.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, so that's where we would want to get it so they can get everything done.
Mhm. Okay.
He is pretty sure, he said 6 to 8 weeks, would try, because we're a school, they would try to put a majority of their staff on here to get more of the 6 weeks done.
And just my own personal statement, with funds and priorities, I think this comes, in my opinion, I understand some of our windows are letting some of our brand new energy right out the door. But if it came to the life of my child, I would put the fire alarms before windows, even if we absolutely had to. So I definitely think this is a high priority.
And one of the things I'll tell you about the windows as we're looking at the seismic, some of the windows are going to get replaced because some of the walls are getting fixed. So this is one of the pieces, like even with the windows, that's one of the reasons we've kind of, I don't wanna say dragged our feet or drug our feet, but we haven't been because we know, like, for example, one of the windows we put in, they're gonna have to take out, do that wall and put the window back in, but there's some. So I agree with you. But we know with seismic, some of those windows are gonna be replaced. We're not like
Not
in a
out of our
huge
budget.
hurry to get up, yeah.
Okay.
But this, like I said, this is a safety issue. And if we know if this fire system ever breaks down, we couldn't use this building anyways. So it's, it could happen 10 years from now, it could happen next year.
Well, and we also want to project at potentially the hub zone idea that we have in our mind to make sure that when they come in and do an inspection, that we're compliant
Mhm.
to be able to serve the community in that capacity that we're agreeing to.
Yeah.
So I definitely think this is priority.
Soren, do you have anything you want us to talk about or discussion to consider?
No,
Or questions?
I already interjected my little comments here.
Well, I was just concerned about the financial and I do agree with Jamie. I mean, if we have a fire, we have to make sure our kids are safe. But like I said, I am concerned, is there grants maybe that we can go after or?
This one, I'm gonna tell you, we have money for. Other stuff, we can look at grants, but this one, we do have the money in our budget. Even now, we have the $273,000 in the 400 capital. This is what that's for. And so we do have the money to pay for it.
So, okay.
I don't have anything to add besides what you guys have already put out there, so I'm just gonna agree with all of you, because great minds. But do you want to modify your motion at all? I do want to ask that.
Nope.
Okay, so there's a motion, there's a second, there's discussion and questions answered. Laura, can you take a vote, please?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. Oh, great.
General fund project 25.
Thank you. General fund project up next, and I can't get to the document quite yet, so
Here, you want mine?
can somebody, Krista, can you do an overview really quick of the general fund? Wait, hold on.
Oh, hey, Dawn.
Sorry, guys. This is why I brought two computers. Mhm.
One of the things that we wanted to start doing for the board is projecting out a 2-year fund balance. And so if Don could talk about the assumptions he's making, but we want to show you, based on assumptions, and these will change. This is where we'll be using next year. This is where we'll be at the year after. And I think that this is very helpful for the board to start making decisions on what your priorities are. How do you want to spend your money? So I'm going to turn it over to Don.
Well, besides giving, you've read a lot in the paper of what's happening up at Corbett and Silverton and Newburgh, and if you haven't, read Oregon Live, it's on there daily. So I just want the board to, know where we're at. And besides, I want Krista to know where we're at. And so I did a 2-year, it's basic. It's taking the current staff that are in the general fund and carrying them over, providing them their steps. And per the CPA, the assumptions are listed on the bottom. I'm making assumptions. I have no clue on the state school support. I looked at annually, it's 4% increase if they're going to, when Chris is talking about increasing the IEP to 15%, just remember, and I had this talk with the Westland superintendent the other day. We were talking, she's a good friend. All you're doing is cutting the pie a different way. Remember, there's a lot of big districts that most districts are at 18%. So when you talk about a Portland school district, they're going to go up from 11 to 15, and that's a lot of kids. So is it going to make any financial difference? I don't know. It's great in concept, but they need to put the money in there. And when we were talking, is they need to fund the high cost kids, but they aren't doing that. So it's looking at the formula in its entirety rather than just changing percentages and the concept. But what I've given you here is the actuals for the last 2 years and the actual for 23, 24. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the financial statements, but the audit will probably be presented in January. I know they're so busy. And I told them it's no big deal to me. I just want to make sure the numbers and everything is into the ODE. And then when they present it, it's good. And I have the budget for 24, 25. But I also have the estimate for 24, 25 where we're at and based on the ADMW. So we'll be around 6.1 at the end of the year. Unless, you transfer more dollars or whatever. I think it'll be higher than that. But I'm using budget, I'm assuming all supplies and those are expended, but that's not going to happen. So it'll be higher than that. I'd rather be conservative rather than say you have this and that. But what I'm trying to show is where you're going to be at the end of the biennium. And that's the end of 26, 27. This does not take into place any staff that are in grants. Now remember, grants might go down. And hopefully not, because what Krista has shared with me, they want to put more money in the SIA, which a number of our grants are. We won't, if IDA won't be impacted our staff, what we have there. So it's really what dollars we have in the SIA and the HSS.
And that number is off of ADM.
Yeah, those are off
Those
of,
are going to reduce because of ADM.
It could. I mean, high school success might go up as we get more numbers in the high school. The
Yeah,
SIA
so-
might go down. I don't know.
but it all depends on how the state funds them.
Yeah.
So if those staff aren't there, I mean, if dollars aren't there, they flip over to the general fund or you do reductions. You've been there. So just to let you know that's why we're looking at MOE. Because one thing on MOE, just the real basic is you have to expend the same amount. And you have to budget the same amount as you have expended the previous year, or you're not in compliance with IDA. And one of the funniest things about IDA, even if you don't accept IDA, you have to be in compliance. And you still have to pay them back money that you didn't get. It's just this, I can't grasp, but
We
that's
found
the
that
rule.
out in a-
That's the rule. So you have to be in compliance. And I understand the reason for compliance, but the flexibility is something. So, but what this is saying is you're going to use about $1 million for each of the years to maintain the current staff. And so that would get you down to about 3 million. So you could have about 3 years, 3.5 years, unless you make changes in staffing as people leave, you don't fill them. That's the logical way. That's the easiest way. As they retire. And, but you just need to, this is giving you the global picture and it's starting to the budget development, where we're at.
Increased numbers.
this doesn't require a vote tonight. This is informational, just for.
This is just,
Discussion.
this is giving you information so you have some kind of where you're at.
But I guess the question I have in regards to this is, how are you using this information when we go look at the strategic planning for the district, while you are also using kind of that district leadership group also to understand as we work together, where are we going? Because like we've just heard, we have facilities we have to keep up, and we have regulations and compliance we need to stay up to date with. We have to approve budgets. We know budgets aren't gonna go down, expenditures just keep going up. And right now, it sounds like we know that some of our staff are out of grants that we may have to. So I guess, I say all that to look at, how are you using this in that space?
Well, like, so for example, when we look at the strategic plan, if you guys, one of your strategic goals is to maintain or, long-term facility use plan. One of the budget might be then is you're like, hey, we need to put more money into increasing or to maintaining and fixing up our facilities. Well, like Dawn said, we only have so much of the pie. So as we go through, when we look at numbers, we might have to start looking at combining classes. So, it's great to say we want to add more programs, but you have to look at what are your numbers and how much money do you have? At this point, when you look at attrition, I'm looking at staffing, I'm looking at numbers. Do we actually need that position, or can we cover with what we have? And, again, I think that's one of the reasons we're doing this strategic planning, is so you can say, one of the strategic priorities of the board is to maintain have a long-term facility use plan and maintain our facilities. Well, how do you maintain facilities? You have to put money into them. Or it might be looking at reading scores. So what does that mean? You look at programs and you put money into increasing our reading scores. So it's just kind of those pieces. And really, for me, as we're working as a leadership group and as a board group and moving forward in budgeting, this is where the board says, this is how we want to use our money. And like Vince said, you guys are setting the priorities. And then I'm, as the district leader with the district leadership team, then are building the plans to move forward with it. So if you say to me, and I'm just gonna throw it out, we don't really want to have as much athletics offered anymore. And I'm just throwing that out. I'm not saying that's true, but that's an example. We want to focus a lot more on here. Then we might actually look and say, okay, well, we're cutting our athletic budget back by 25%. We wouldn't do that, but you see what I'm saying? And it's also one of the things that I think people also need to understand is as Dawn and I are looking, yes, it looks like we have $6.1 million, but is the board wanting to use 1.3 every year to maintain? Or do we look and say, what programs, what things do we want to go?
And so I
Can I
guess
say
my
one thing?
secondary, oh, sorry.
In the big picture, sooner or later, your expenditures have to match your revenues that are coming in. You're living off of your savings that
Yep.
due to the high ADM. It's been a benefit here compared to what other districts have gone through. Because you've been declining, it's always been on the high, using the higher. Now you've got flat. So the long-term goal to me is, as a business manager, is revenues have to match expenditures. The fund balance is only a savior, in case something happens.
We need to work
Trim
the
it
operating
back.
within
Yeah.
the, but
Me,
the,
the trip
That's
back.
just the rule of the game. Or if you get to that cliff, you're going to have to make those cuts.
And there are districts that are doing it right now.
Well, I talked to a teacher in Butte Creek that's part of Silverton. She has 36 kids in her class. So put that in perspective. So you have the opportunity to plan how to get there, but your revenues have to match your expenditures, and you can make assumptions. We don't know what's going to happen out there, but we could have a recession too. You never know. And I've been there in 2008 where
Oh, me
boom.
too. Yeah.
And so you need the fund balance, to me, is a reserve.
I agree.
I guess my my question asking how you are using the strategic plan is also, I guess, to us as a board, is it fair to say that you're gonna look to us for guidance on how
Mhm.
you want this money spent? So really, it's this board getting, as a group, as a whole, getting on the same page of where our strategy lies as we work through. I think that's why I'm excited to have that strategic plan and guide us through that. And it's the first time we've ever done something like that, because it may very well look like
Well, that's what I
staffing
was.
can't stay at the same level.
Yeah.
Well, and I definitely want to hear the community's input on their vision for our community as well.
Well, and I think too, like, for example, there's been conversations, like, we really like to have, you know, like another principal, so you could do the superintendent things. Our budget doesn't hold that up. It just doesn't. And so, you know, a lot of it is, you know, we look at a place like Ashland, I've spoken to that superintendent. They're pretty much on a hiring freeze. If they lose a teacher, they're going to absorb it. And are their class sizes going to go up?
Mhm.
Yes, they are. Are their administrators going to have to take on more? Yes, they are. Does that mean that people get raises? No, it does not. It means that everybody has to take on more. And, you know, we have to be careful with how we spend our money for consumables and non-consumables, you know? Are we just gonna spend it because we can, or are we gonna be really strategic in how we plan? Like I said, last year, when Dawn and I walked through the budget with the principals and the supervisors, we said, here's your budget, cut 10%. And because Dawn, like Dawn said, we have to start living within our means. We can only spend what we bring in. Otherwise, we're gonna, in about 3-4 years, we're gonna be
Broke.
well, there's a school district up north, Corbett, who literally has to find a $2 million loan to survive the rest of the school year.
Ugh.
I don't want to be in that position. So we, like Dawn said, we are in a great position in this year, next year, and even the year after to start planning. But we can't wait till we're like, oh my gosh, we only have $50,000 left.
Mhm.
I think in this day and age, as a school district and anywhere in Oregon, it behooves you to have at least, you know, we need to have a good cushion. So if we have a recession, we don't have to cut school days, or we can keep the doors open or whatever. You know, we also know that coming out of our budget is our food costs. Okay, so what happens when we don't have them? Do we feed the kids, or do we just make sure we keep these people? You know what I mean? You guys need to make those decisions, but we have the luxury having a year or two to do it. Some districts have like 20 days.
Oh, you know, kind of one thing that I was always taught, and at home, I mean, you have a minimum 3 months in your savings account.
Mhm.
Yep.
And for a school, you have a minimum 3 years in your savings account, because you never know when something bad is going to happen.
Mhm.
And so in raising my children, I'm like, no matter what, you have 3 months of bills in your savings.
Yeah.
At all times. And
Okay.
so this is kind of the same concept,
Mhm.
it's just on a bigger picture.
Well, and this, like you said, we wanted to start putting things in front of you all, because we want you to think as we go through the strategic plan and you look at priorities and we start talking about where we're at financially. You know, the thing is like grants. Grants are great when you get them and then you build stuff off them and then you don't have them.
Yeah.
So grants are things like a one-time purchase to do something for the building. Grants are not to, hey, I'm gonna hire this new person. We can all see how the ESSER grant went.
Mhm.
And so grants are not how we keep people.
Right.
But, you know, that's just kind of one of those pieces. This is more for you all to have in front of you to start thinking about things. How do you want to start planning? What does the strategic priorities look like as we budget? You know, does the board think we need to go through another RIF process? Or do we want to just say we're doing a hiring freeze? Things like that. These are conversations that we just want you to start thinking about in your head.
With the food services, do you have to provide free and reduced to everybody or free to everybody?
Kind of becoming a state thing.
In the
now,
state, the
isn't
states
Yeah,
we're gonna probably
We've
gonna.
qualified everybody. Yeah, it's qualified.
I guess I.
We get
where
90%
the
reimbursement.
Question is leading is
get that
at
money.
what point we are one of probably the only districts around that doesn't have fees for things,
Mhm,
whether it be athletics to help offset your athletic, you know,
mhm.
And that could
budget,
be
and-
something that we have to look at in the future.
how long do we just continue to do free everything?
I'm gonna tell you, if we went back to only doing free and reduced for people that qualified, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. It really truly wouldn't. We actually get reimbursed more being a CEP than we do the other. way.
Yeah, because it's a multiplication and so you're getting 90%.
So it's not really costing the school district much. So
No, you'd probably lose money.
What is that gonna
in
look-
It's just the cost, the number of kids.
It's our
And
participation.
like I've said, if you had 100% eating, it would be a different. The issue is 34% aren't eating breakfast or lunch.
So potentially bringing food service in-house and having some actual decent food for kids to eat is going to potentially increase our participation.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, if we can get the food service in-house and doing it, I would expect that we would go from 64 to maybe around 30. 30 to 40
As far as expense.
out of our pocket. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because you wouldn't have the Corvallis doing that
Well, and
and
Mhm.
that's a $38,000 bill right there.
I think the quality of food would get more
Yeah, that's
kids
actually-
eating.
That's been one of the things I've thought about the whole time when we talk about this kitchen project. I would think how many more kids would eat. if it
Oh
was
my
the
gosh.
actual Food.
I have to
food was good.
Well, and
drive my kid crazy. He does not eat.
He drives me crazy.
He does
I
not
know.
eat. He eats a little bit for breakfast, but he won't eat anything else.
But then that goes back to that question of where do we invest our money? Do we invest it into facilities?
Right.
Or- You know what I mean? And
Yes.
it's that, I think we keep,
Mhm.
and I appreciate your comment and I would like to hear more about the community input. I'm not gonna say but I will say, however, at some point, we have to make the decision for this budget for the students and the community needs to accept.
Yeah,
that we're making that best decision for the students.
yeah.
And sometimes we're gonna differ from them.
Mhm.
And that's because I think we get so much more information sitting in this space.
Yeah.
Regarding, the facilities versus the food and the reimbursements and things like that, we get to have these engaging conversations.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, when we do this, I think the community input really comes from the strategic
Mhm.
priorities.
Yes.
And then, like been said, you do the strategic priorities, the board votes on them, and
Mm-hmm.
then we work as a group to really do the strategic planning. But like I said, for this, we just wanted to put it in front of you. We want you guys to start thinking about it. I think maybe some of the issues in prior years is it was like cut money now. There wasn't a like, let's look at the
Mhm.
bigger picture.
So this is like kind of our financial map. Like when we start having any conversation, we should have this in front of us. Like, okay, where's that gonna hit?
Yeah.
That's a really
Well, I
good
think we
idea.
What is
started
that gonna hit?
last year, really.
Yeah.
We've
We
done,
started
I
that
think,
last year.
I mean, I'm new to the board a year in, you know what I mean? So I feel like we have looked at financials very well since I've been on the board, but in our strategic planning, I just think it would be good to have at the table.
Yeah.
That's a good
And to
idea.
be able to fit, for me, I'm a visual person, like, where's this gonna hit? Show me where this is gonna hit.
Well, and like, as the legislature goes through and does the skate school fund, and like we've noticed, like they'll give you a number and then 6 months later, they're like, just kidding.
Mhm.
So that's where Dawn and I really sit together and are thinking, okay, like. If, like Dawn was great. Last year, he estimated how much, we knew that we were gonna get our school, or SIA cut by probably 40%. He was at like 42%. Which then he hands me and says, here's what I'm estimating. And I look at the budget and then we sit down and we talk, like, where does it make sense?
Mm.
So this is really one of those where things change, but we wanted to put this in front of you,
Mhm.
just so you know. I mean, it might be one of those where we do have a fire and we do have to pay our deductible, which could be high. Well, if we don't have this reserve, where to go? But, so, and those are things, the board, like I said, the board might say, hey, Krista, we think, I'm actually working with another superintendent to do teacher to student ratio. So if we have this teacher to student ratio, what would it look like in terms of staffing? Do we need more staff? Do we need less staff? You might say, we want to have this type of ratio. When we look at staff, when we look at numbers, when we have certain amount of kids in classes, sometimes those numbers don't, for lack of a better term, this is the business part of it. They don't pay for having the teacher. And you don't just have a teacher, you have the aides, the secretaries, the bus drivers. All of that has to get paid based off our ADMW. So these are things we just wanted to throw this out at you guys so you had ideas of where to start, kind of how you wanted to look.
I feel like this is one of the most, like, we're getting to Jamie's point, like, we're getting much better financial information. I don't know how you feel, Deb, because
Since
I'm-
he's
I-
been here.
well, I'm kind of
100%.
like, but for my fourth year on the board, I'm feeling like, oh, we're finally getting into the nitty gritty of how we survive as a district to be sustainable. So we're like working through that crisis and chaos into the sustainability space. And so that's why I love your idea of having something at the table and having it kind of fresh in our mind, especially as we look at a new cycle coming up. I think that's great. Sorry, I think.
Do we have any, you brought up class sizes. Is there a cap in any contract anywhere?
Not in
within
our
district?
contract.
What about in our?
I mean, I know our numbers are low, but I'm just curious. I thought for some reason the charter had a cap at
There
like
is, but if
23.
you're gonna bring the charter, this is a whole nother conversation,
Yeah.
because actually the charter is not really a charter, it's more of an application. So we're not-
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing is there is in there, but
As he's over there, go,
we've had a long 2 months. We can look at those pieces, but I think, you know, like I said, I'm working with colleagues, you know, like, for example, Umatilla. That's the superintendent I'm working with. She has a spreadsheet and she's like, this is the cap, this is how many kids we have, this is what our classroom ratios will be. Now, I asked her, I said, you know, we talked about, well, what do you do with your aid? She's like, every teacher in the elementary has an aid. I'm like, really? She's like, but we don't do sped aids or title aids. The expectation is sped aids and title aids, they're all done with the teacher in the aid. If I only have 20 kids in kindergarten, then they should be able to do everything we need between the teacher and the aid. And at high school, they have an English department. Each grade of the English department has an aid, and that aid is a special education aid and a title aid. There's no special education aid, title aid, RTI aid. That's how they run theirs, and they have it down so they know, here's our budget, this is how many people we have per kid. And so
that
That's-
makes sense. I like it.
it was like, when she
That's
showed me
black
those-
and
great.
white. I
Black
love
and
it.
And she, I mean, I have this spreadsheet, so I'm gonna start working on it with her to kind of get those numbers. Because to me, if you say, as a board, you're saying, hey, in the K-2, we don't want any more than 15 in each class. Well, if you have a kindergarten class that has 6 and a second grade or first grade class that has 6, well, you can hit your 1 to 15 by doing a combination, which means then you are one less teacher down. Does that kind of make sense?
How does that work with contracts?
Be more specific.
Say we face that next year with K1. Those teachers have contracts.
They would more than likely be a RIF or attrition.
Okay.
But that's the nice thing about having this projected out, where we have some savings, or you could potentially wait around for attrition before you actually made that move.
I mean, you could say we want to try one more year, see what our population is, and we could have some attrition. You know, if we have a teacher leave, like at the high school level, I might say, we only needed a part-time teacher, so we cut back on FTE. You know, when your budget is approximately 84% personnel, when you have to cut, who do you cut?
Do we have any reliable census data?
Because even if we have census data, because we're chartered, they come in and out, so that makes it
True.
more difficult, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Looking to you
Well,
guys
at
for
least
that
you could
answer.
look within necessarily what we have internally, and we are always gonna get more out from outside.
I
What do we
think-
have in our home district?
Yeah,
then-
and that's, you know, those are kind of pieces we've talked about, how do you brand yourself? Well, the brand needs to be, we need to get in here, we need to actually look at our test scores, we need to have a clear vision. We need
Show
to
some
have,
progress.
yes, progress.
Mhm.
But again, we just wanted to put this in front of you. We want you guys to start thinking about this.
Great.
How do you guys want to go? This will probably change in like 3 months.
Right.
As you know, we get more,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks.
But I think as we keep looking at it, we might have more questions. So for
Yeah.
that, can we direct questions to you and then you guys can get answers back, or
Mhm.
like if there are things that come up?
Yep.
Perfect. Anything else
Okay,
on
nope.
this one? Okay, work session. This was an ad from last meeting to get a work session on the book, so we don't have to do anything with this tonight except for agree on a date and a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Don.
We just need to get a work session on the books, and I think the one question I have, and I'm looking at you over here.
A work session for,
This is for the leadership operating agreement, and one of the suggestions that came out of the board conference was like, as you get new board members, holding that in. Do you want to be a part of this, or do you want us to schedule after the new cycle, is one of the questions I have as we look at like,
after the new cycle.
okay, so it's between the three of us this evening. to decide on a date.
Because what's the point of me being a part of a work session when I'm not going
We
to?
don't want you to feel sad.
I don't want you to feel left out by any means. You guys have a
Please.
say.
No, please to leave me out.
You can come watch. You can
Oh,
just be a
yeah.
patron then.
I'll be
Is this
right
something
on.
we're combining with a potential discussion of onboarding?
It could be.
It should be, yeah, like a training session type of thing. We could
Uh,
set it.
About creating an onboarding for new board members?
No, this would not be, this would be, we just have that leadership operating agreement. I believe at the board, at one of the meetings, somebody said we should look at it and see if it needs to be updated. So that would be
Okay.
this one. If you guys want to put this off till January, when we have the new, we could put that off, or not January,
June,
July,
July.
July.
because the new board member wouldn't come till July 1st.
Right, but I think
And I think
we
it-
should have it in place and
The
be per,
date.
right, but I don't think we should wait to June to decide it.
Does it say
right?
the operating agreement?
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
was actually thinking we would wait till July to have the meeting. This was my take on it.
Are we back on?
I'm on the leadership operating agreement.
Yeah,
date.
okay.
I was thinking of July because then you have new board members coming in and then you're having that conversation with everybody and setting that groundwork, like right there, but I don't.
Yeah.
If you, but I'm open to doing, but I think you are also talking about wanting to have like an onboarding for a board member process a little bit differently. And I think I
Yeah.
can take that to just work with Vince on and bring that to present that to the board if that would work. We don't have to have a work session quite yet for that unless we
Okay.
feel different. Like I could.
Did you receive anything, Laura, from that? Oh, what is her name? Anyways, there, you were supposed to get a book. Somebody's book. Have you received anything? In regards to like a board onboarding book?
Hillsborough has a really good thing out on the website. I was
I
gonna
wonder
say,
if
I
that's the
thought Ben had
district.
given something out on that, when you guys joined the board, you and
It's like
Russ.
a piece of paper and it just like isn't helpful.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
If you look at our district policy, and let me see if I can find it, because when I was doing my board governance. They're actually in board policy. BHHA.
Oh.
Orientation of, there's, you actually have a policy that says orientation of new board members.
Which is good,
Mhm.
but I think we can improve it.
Yeah, we should. cover it.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
what
just
I'm
saying.
saying is, I think we need to have a more
Mhm.
robust
So-
onboarding
Like a mentorship,
Yeah.
not a policy.
Process,
I feel like a mentorship.
procedure.
Well, because it says the superintendent will supply materials pertinent to meetings, will explain its contents. Newly elected appointed board member will be invited to meet with the superintendent, other administrative personnel by arrangement, the superintendent to discuss key services they perform for the district. So we could do something, I mean, in the end, it could be a book and then they could, little thing, and then we could talk, maybe the board chair and myself and Laura could have that. So I just wanted to point out, we have this policy.
Right, and we get a book and that was helpful,
Mhm.
but I got the most value
I'm
from the
talking.
everybody. I received the most value about truly what my role is and how I operate behind this table
During the
with
training.
the bronze level training of OSBA.
Well,
And I know
let's-
you can't make it mandatory, but if there's something that we can do within ourselves, the mentorship program for a seasoned,
Mhm.
board member to go
Yes.
over some of those things.
really, there's so much information and you really, even in 4 years, you're just learning all of it. So, I mean, I've been here 9 years and I'm still learning
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, we're not gonna have
And
any seasoned
procedures
board
and-
members
Yeah.
So,
next time around.
so really just starting the process and giving them the basic, here, this is what you can and can't do,
Mhm.
and listen to the rest is really what you need.
Let me do this, Laura, will you write this down? Let me send out, I have a meeting with my colleagues on Friday. Let me see what other districts around do in this area.
Well, I specifically mentioned, I was the one that brought this up at the
Mhm.
last meeting, that there was a school district and I'll be able to find it when I go back to my WOVA app and look at the presentation that I attended. And there's somebody's book and she's one of the seasoned board, liaison Laura's. And
do we
so
want- Okay, yeah, do that and
Get
then
a
once you
copy
do
of that.
once you do that, let me, just email me
Yeah.
Laura and then we'll do it. So my question then is, do we wanna put off the work session date and agreement time?
Yeah, maybe till like May we schedule it, so we're closer to like
Yeah.
the July timeframe, so we know our plans in life.
Well, and we can do a board retreat too. This can be part of a
Yeah.
board retreat.
Ah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Good.
really valuable. I remember that.
Yeah.
That summer after you and Russ came on and Vince came and gave us all several days of training. That was
yes.
Yep. Okay.
extremely valuable to me.
And I mean, if the board says we really want to prioritize this training and have it after, when we have new people coming in, then maybe that's what we do. So, okay,
So Laura, can we move the work session 5E to,
table till.
can we just table it till May?
Okay.
Okay. We're through new business, you guys. Full business.
Are we done yet?
No, we're not,
Almost,
but we're almost
almost.
there. Like, we're so close. All right. KLAR work session review. So I was, do you want to take this or do you want me to?
You can do it and I can kind of go through.
Okay, so there's two things here. So there's a public complaint website and then the board governance and role. So one thing that came up in this was that the website, it would be really nice if there's something there that provided better information to the community when they're going through and they're looking at what's a complaint and complaint policy and things like that. So Krista worked with two different school districts, looked at two different school districts and pulled more, I think it was Corvallis and
Albany. Mhm.
Yeah. So bigger districts, but so maybe even like they have like more complaints and things like that, but kind of put more of a spin and information out there on like, what is this used for and how do we want them to use it before they even jump into the KLAR process. And so this would be on the complaint bullet underneath the board. And then the other piece was the board governance and role. And this is an education piece that would be going onto the website that would say, as a reminder, or if you didn't know, this is what your board members do. And here's how it's made up. This is what their official board, like what they have power over essentially.
Mhm.
And then it even talks through, which I think is really helpful, that we can't act on our own or that we can't hear individual complaints or requests even. It's not even a complaint, but sometimes it's that request for an action. It then guides them to what the KL policy is for a complaint. This also would talk about that we don't, as a board, deal with day-to-day operations, but who does deal with that day-to-day operations and where can they take that to?
Mhm.
And then, so we also talked about multiple different things in policy that's helpful, like for us to understand where do we go for our guidance. So where do we want them to go to understand also? And so these policies, BBAA, BBF, and BG are good references essentially for the community to, like, you can even citing them, like you can go look at these on our website. They're easy for you to access. I can't act in that lane. That's not my lane. So really this is education for the community is what we heard was huge. But also I feel like it's a support process for the board to say, I have to protect myself in this situation.
Mhm.
I can't do this. So these were some of the actions that came out of that work session.
This, and I'll tell you, the
Um,
board governance and rules, some of this wording is directly from policy.
Mhm.
Where it says individual board members, the first paragraph, the LC school board is made up of 5 elected members who reside. That literally is from BBA. So, there's a conversation in that work session. We're like, well, staff doesn't know they have to go the KL policy. So in here, board members are not able to receive individual complaints or requests for action from staff, students, or members of the public. I must direct staff, students, or members of the public. Like, I wanted to make sure that that was in there. That was a conversation. And the same thing, if you look at the public complaint website, it talked about that as well. That no community member, student, or staff member will be denied the right to petition the board for a redress of a grievance. However, complaints will be referred through the proper administrative channel for a solution. So like, this is, we tried to take what you guys said and then move it together. Like I said, like Christine said, for the public complaint website, I actually went and I took Corvallis's and Albany's and said, how can we make it? I know, Soren, in the last meeting, you said that there was some staff and were like, I didn't know I was supposed to use the KL. So that's why, we tried to.
Yeah,
make it so-
they're looking for their own specific
Mhm.
complaint.
Yep. So, and if you look at the board members, it does say staff, students. And so I try to use that language in there.
Mhm.
And then the one part that was kind of like me thinking about how do we really explain what the board does? Well, the board is not the day-to-day people. The board is the governance. The day-to-day is delineated to the superintendent to do. So I try to put that down as much as we can without making it 3 pages long.
Does the word public have to be there? I think that might be even where some of that confusion came from. If we're saying public complaint, a staff may not think that they're public because they're staff.
Unfortunately, our policy is public
Yeah.
complaint, so I would say you need to use the same words. We just say it in, I mean, technically.
Within the description.
Yeah, I mean, and so like, for example, the original sentence of the public complaint policy, it really, like, it just said no community member. It actually, I think it was Corvallis, actually says no community member, staff, student or staff member. So I was like, that's great because this really says staff member. However, the second sentence is it has to go through the proper administrative channels before the board will actually even
Yeah.
consider it. And then one of the things you guys had mentioned was that there was no place, like if I didn't know how to read it, who do I go to? So we made sure we put Laura's name on there.
Yes.
And the other one that we wanted to put on there, because this is important. If you go through the KL policy, it is not anonymous.
Yep.
You have to put your name on it. You don't want to put your name on it. Our policy does not allow for that.
I think that's super important.
So, and actually not Corvallis, I think Albany's had that on there. So I was like, we are gonna put that on there so people know that.
So this is for the website. I do believe that you don't actually need a vote for this.
I just wanted to see, is this
But
is this what
we
you guys were
wanted?
looking for?
This, I think this is a huge
Exactly.
step forward.
Black and
In
white.
this board governance and role, where is that gonna be?
I would think great minds think alike. I would put it under the board and it would literally go under the board tab and I would put it just as a click, like a clickable, and it would say like board members. And then I think right below that, I would put board governance and
I think that's a really good idea.
I'm just wondering how many people will click through to that. My original idea was something like this. Right in their face as they're going to look at, how do I file a complaint?
well, it's
Well,
right,
but-
it's right there under by the complaint policy.
As long as it's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one of the big things to do is if we're gonna put it on there, we have to remember as a board member, people come and say, I want to blah, 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 blah.
We need to reference it.
You have to say, go to our website, please. There is,
Mhm.
it, we have to be able to say it's there. So are we okay though with the wording of the
Yes,
board
I think
governance?
so, yeah.
Black and
I'm really
white.
happy.
Okay, are we okay then with the public complaint part of it?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. OSBA elections and resolutions. So this is old business. We'll go through these individually, and I assumed we would go through these individually. To go per resolution so that Laura would then know how to collect our votes
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
vote. Does that make sense?
And we will vote as soon as we get done with the meeting. Laura actually has the ballot up. We're gonna send it right then.
That work for everybody? Okay. So the first is election of board of directors position 10. Or a motion to consider.
So are we discussing the board members that are applying for these? Is that what you're looking
So
for?
we need to nominate one or the other or abstain is what,
One of the 3 that are.
one of the
Two.
two.
One of the
There's
two.
So board position 10 is Clyde Root, and I do not mean to, Luhoi? Oh, okay, White Bear, is they're the 2 nominees for the board position 10. So that is for 6BI is election.
Oh,
That's
so
fine.
we're actually voting on one
Yep.
of these
Yes,
2
Yep, you're-
yes,
right now.
yes.
And can we discuss both of them after a single nomination? Or this makes it difficult.
I
to
would say we would discuss first, actually, before we
Yeah.
put a vote out there.
I would actually say if you guys want to discuss, you can discuss first and then you make your motion for nomination.
Is there a discussion?
I just want to say I have had personal conversations with both of them. I'm fairly impressed with both in different ways. Ms. Whitebeard is very enthusiastic and seems to have a lot of plans, and Mr. Root is very calm and has experience as an incumbent in the role. And I'm actually really torn here at this decision. I'm having trouble even coming up with a nomination.
Other discussion or questions?
What do you
Alright.
think?
Are you turning that heat on?
I know, I'm sitting over here with chills and it's blowing on me.
I do agree with Soren. I think I will say this, my concern is both of these candidates come from larger districts. Out of this position 10 space. And so the relatability to a smaller 1A district, I feel like is just different.
That's kind of what I thought. On Mr., is it Rude? I felt that he was more out for definitely the bigger school districts. He related more towards that. His diversification, all of that was more towards the bigger schools.
Their nomination.
I would have to say, I think for me, speaking with the young lady tonight, I would nominate Miss White Bear myself.
Nomination, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we've had discussion, so let's go to a vote.
No?
Abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Carries 2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
All right. Election for legislative policy committee position. We have 2 candidates again. So LPC position 10, we have Soren Rounds, and LPC position 10, Jason Curtis. Is there discussion? So legislative policy committee, this position sits on the policy committee in overall. So that is part of their role, is to really have a say in the policy, creating policy, reviewing policies that then OSBA legal looks at, and they present throughout to the schools. So I will give my 2 cents. I did not hear from Mr. Curtis at all. But I will say that in working with Mr. Rounds, which feels a little odd to say, I do appreciate the attention to detail in policy. But one step further than that, I would also say that I believe that Soren acts in a space that is best for all students and parents, and lets no bias come between personal views and policy written out. For me, that's super duper important when we come into this position, that there's not an agenda to be met. So that's my
Absolutely.
personal opinion.
I will second that.
So is there a nomination to be
I
heard?
would like to make a nomination for Soren Browns in LPC position 10.
Right, is there?
I'll second.
A discussion, Laura, can you call for a vote?
Yes.
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 Dues schedule. There's some information in here that obviously goes over the entire dues schedule to increase dues for the OSBA. Is there any question or comments on these? All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt or vote yes on the new OSBA due schedule.
Okay, is there a second?
Hold on.
Oh.
You need to do the so I
Oh,
would
okay,
say,
resolution.
so you need to make a motion, so let's go back.
Okay,
You need to amend your motion. It's to be, to adopt the resolution to amend the OSBA dues.
okay.
schedule.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'd like to
Amend your-
amend my motion. I motion to approve, accept the resolution for OSBA due schedule amendment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there was no discussion, so Laura, can we vote?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Next is the Pride Caucus. This is a caucus for the OSBA board.
I make a motion that our board abstain from this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second? I will second. Laura, a vote? Laura?
Yes, to abstain.
Yes, to the abstain.
Yes.
Yes.
And then bylaws update resolution. There's another one of those tricky ones where we motion through resolution. Are there any questions or comments on the bylaws amendment? All right, is there a motion to consider?
I'll move to accept the resolution to amend the OSBA bylaws.
2020.
Or 2023 bylaws.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there was no discussion, so Laura, vote?
Yes.
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 Do you have everything you need in the OSBA?
Yes,
Okay,
we'll do it as
perfect.
soon as the meeting's over, Laura. And I
Just
already
making
have it ready to go.
Okay, first readings. This is the new proposed KLAR that with the discussion, with the review of the
Mhm.
policy was presented to OSBA with the pieces that the board wanted changed or refined, and then had OSBA write so that it stayed within that legal compliance space. But it is our first reading, so this is a great time for questions around this. Okay, and I'll let you dig in.
Okay, so one of the things the board asked me to check into is could we do a fillable form on the website? OSBA said the policy is not set up for the fillable form, so that would be a no.
Okay.
This one, in speaking with, is it Rick Stuckey, Laura? We got on the phone and I said the board wants it to be very clear that the information or that that the complaint can be filed via email or in writing. But we need to also put in there that, that if you file it, it actually has to have the same information as the form. They don't have to use the form. So based on what I heard the board say, this is what Rick came back with, and he ran it past Spencer Lewis, who is the head legal. And they were okay with that. One of the things I will tell you is there is a school district and I'm gonna give kind of a little antidote. There's a school district in Oregon that actually did have a complaint filed by the superintendent against a board member, but it was not written on the form. It was written in letter. But it had everything on the form that was required for an official complaint. And so based on, like I said, the conversations you all had at the work session and then mine, this is what Rick and legal was able to come up with. So this was not me writing it. It was Rick passing it through Spencer Lewis.
My only comment is on the actual form itself.
On the AR, sorry.
Yeah,
Mhm,
the last page, that's the actual complaint form.
mhm.
That two line, we only have one school. I don't think we need to have district or office and name of school. We're just the
You-
LC school
No,
district,
you
right?
have to have that because if a teacher, like for example, and I'm gonna use Mrs. Shunk. If a teacher has a complaint against another teacher, it does not go to the district office. It goes to her first. And then if they don't like what she does, then it comes to the district
Okay.
office. Same thing like with a
Okay.
bus driver versus a bus driver, it would go to Keenan.
I just envisioned this as like gaps where they have 900
Yeah.
schools.
That's a good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, but no, that's the
Okay.
piece is that we have the other piece. And
Yeah.
so I would say if we would keep it on, because
Okay.
if, let's say I decide to leave and transition and the board says, we're gonna go to a full-time principal, but we're only gonna do a part-time super, then you wanna be able to have that distinguished.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Other questions, comments on this one? We don't have to vote this evening. We can let this go to the second reading also, so we can take the time.
I was just kind of working through the form is available, but is not required, like in the previous step, it has a sentence where it writes out about having the information on the form, either in writing or using the form. And then the superintendent, step 3, it has that parentheses with a form is available, but is not required. I really like I mean, in the text, it has it written out in that sentence. I'm just not sure that's that parenthetical that at the bottom is necessary.
You mean to take off the forum is available or not?
Yeah.
I would tell you he did not take it off, so I would leave it on.
It just seemed like a remnant of the last policy, and I really like the way they wrote it out in the.
Okay,
complete sentence.
let me ask Rick for sure. Laura, will you write that down and we'll email Rick tomorrow to say, Rick, can we just take that form is available but not required out since the
'Cause
previous?
well, then it seems like within the text of that paragraph, it's very clear in it. Format of a sentence.
Mhm. Okay, let me ask him if he would take it out. And if he says yes, I will do that for the second
But
reading.
I also noticed that that's all, every policy we looked at had that
Yeah,
in there, and so like maybe it's a legal thing.
Yeah.
You just have to have it. somewhere.
let's ask Laura for sure. Okay. Yep, thank you. The one thing that you can see there's what red and blue. One of the things that we did point out is that when you talk about the administrator, that there's not always, the principal is not always the minister. So like Keenan is the supervisor or the administrator over the bus driver. So that's why we said principal and or supervisor. So we had that distinguished, so. Okay.
All right. Great. Okay, so now we're moving into second reading. I guess we can approve these all in one motion, or we can go individually and pull them out. Does the board have any concern with approving all of these in one motion?
I do not.
Okay, I want to answer. Jamie had a
Oh.
question real quick. I just want to make sure I answered it. There was one about the videotaping.
Oh,
I
Storage.
remember the
Oh,
story.
cloud storage, yes.
I called my colleagues and on average, everybody only kept up to 7 days.
Okay,
I called around, I think one said 15, but
Okay.
and they're like, really, if you go past that, you have to get more, but most of them were 5 to 7
okay.
days.
And the basis
Yeah.
for my question was in my line of work.
Yep.
All transports, we have to actually hold the footage for 3 years legally.
So I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that I answered that question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, with that question answered, are you still comfortable with this being going with one
Absolutely.
motion? Okay, so is there a motion to consider approval of all second reading policies?
I'll make a motion to approve all second reading on policies.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
You need to enumerate the names of the policies. In the past, we've done that.
Would you just,
You want me?
Can we amend your motion?
Yes, let's
To-
amend it
No,
to,
it's a good call.
policies EEA, EEAAR, EEACA, EEACCA,
You're right.
Yep. EEACCAAR. That's all.
All right, motion amended.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
Thanks,
Thank you. Should I be able to talk the rest of the night?
that made my day, Storm, thank you.
Go ahead and go for a vote.
Yes.
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 You're right. No, you're right. Okay, are there any board comments this evening? We're getting a little loopy.
No.
All right, go for it.
I was just making a comment. I went last Wednesday and met with Representative Gomberg. He was in Philomath meeting with board members and superintendents from local schools. It was myself and the superintendent of schools from Philomath who were there. He had just spent a long day in Monroe and I was on his way home, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time like you guys did with Mr. Anderson. We did discuss some of the same highlights we talked about, special education funding, and he did have a lot to say about the state school fund and a few other things that some highlights. And again, he would not take the papers, but he did want more information on the kitchen
Yep.
project because he heard about that in Monroe because there are partners with
Mhm.
That hub project.
that other grant. He said if it falls through, he may be able to help us out.
Yeah,
I was
So-
kind of watching the news on some of the politicians and they're going back to work, is it January?
Mhm.
To work on some new school funding ideas.
Mhm.
So maybe the governor will help us with some of that.
I
Well-
have also heard that the special education is going to be a kind of a very
Top
hard.
priority.
yeah.
Mm,
Mm-mm.
it's going to
Oh.
be a very tough if there's a conversation at all about it.
Oh, so what I was kind of hearing was they were really making it a top priority, so we'll see.
For the state school fund.
Yeah.
But special education is not a topic anybody wants to talk about.
So we're gonna keep working on, it. I think if there is a legislative day for admin, I'm gonna go up there and, I'm gonna keep handing out that 53-page document and talk about accountability. I'm going to, in your guys' update this Friday, I'm actually gonna give you the ODE accountability report so you guys can start looking at it and see what recommendations they're making to help
There's
us.
a lot in that packet, because I was reading it. the other
I
day,
know, I
it's
was
like, OMG.
I am so
It made my
proud.
head spin.
Right.
It's giving you guys information.
Yeah, it was good snoring weather.
Thank you, Soren, for going to that meeting,
Yes.
and representing us as a board. Appreciate keeping our name at the front of his mind.
There's also a Region 10 Legislative Action Committee meeting coming up on either the 16th or 17th. They're just trying to finalize that. All of the regions trying to get on the same page for some key topics. I think the idea is 3 to 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, was it said in that Zoom meeting that it was, they want to try to focus on 3 to 5?
I think it was, yeah, three-ish.
Yeah, about of topics to try to push for a session in January with representatives. So there's another one coming up, and I think Ms. Whiteber actually gave us clarification that because we're not working on district specific action, that there is no issues with all of us
There's no
attending.
quorum issue, right?
There's no
Okay,
quorum
yeah.
issue.
All right. Well, let's move into future agenda items. Any future agenda items? Laura, I have one for us. I want to put student reps back on to refine our, where we're at now that we've had a couple of months of this. So if we could add that next month, I'd be happy to, I can write us up a little document, things like that. That works. Any other future agenda items? All right, with that, key dates, I'm not gonna get these, I am gonna get these right. Okay, winter break is December 23rd through January 3rd with the basketball tournament. What did I miss?
Oh, no, I see. It's through the 6th, but I get it.
Oh, do
Teacher
that
work
Friday.
day.
The kids will come back on January 7th with a teacher work day on January 6th, but don't forget, the 26th and 27th, we have that Clemens tournament here.
Make sure I'm still breathing.
Come down and celebrate the kids in the community and enjoy just a good 2 days.
Yeah.
It was truly one of the most enjoyable things last year. Please don't miss out on this. Okay, we're adjourned. 8:34.
So we have a board meeting January 7th, is that correct?
Yes.
I will be.
No, we don't have a board
both.
meeting January
So
7th.
the next one.
The next one would be
Thank you for coming.
January 14th.
Thank
It's the
you.
second Tuesday.
Oh. Okay, because I was gonna be gone then, so the 5th through the 11th.
Yeah, no, it's the 14th is our next one.
Oh, okay, because the weeks are, yeah. Good, Laura, I got
And
the, I
I'm gonna be
got
gone
the,
at the end of December, so I won't be able to come. by.
Okay, then do it.
stepping on our toes.
Yeah.
I just share with you all that, not let you down. I ended up being elected and I actually grew